Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 p.m. on November the 6th. The Bel Air Beach City Council meeting will now come to order. Our invocation will be presented by Leslie Natero. Councilmember Natero, you have the floor.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here. We thank you again for this council, our mayor, our city staff, our first responders, and all those who work to make this place we call home such a wonderful city. In the name of Jesus, whose perfect love sets us free from all our fears. Amen.
Amen. All right, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Gentry, would you call the roll for the last time?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Mark Chester.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
And City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present. All right. We'll give you just a second to figure that out.
Sounds great.
Like a baseball stadium. I think we're better now. All right, good. All right, before we begin our agenda, I'd like to remind everyone that this Saturday, we're still doing it, huh? I'll tell you what, we're just going to pause the meeting for just a minute and see if we can get this figured out. Are we good?
That's nice.
Can everyone hear me out there? All right, great. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Let's move forward. Before we begin our agenda, I'd like to remind everyone that this Saturday, November the 11th, is Veterans Day. This day holds a special place in our hearts as we come together to recognize the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve our great nation. On this upcoming Veterans Day, let us pay our respects and express our profound gratitude to those heroes. Their service, whether in times of war or peace, reminds us of the values that define our nation: freedom, justice, and democracy. Let us ensure that their sacrifices are never forgotten and that our veterans know they are appreciated not just today, but every day. Thank you, veterans, for your service and dedication to our great nation, the United States of America. Now we move on to agenda item number 1.
Mr. Moon,
Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt. If it's possible, I'd like to suggest we have a couple of guests here tonight that actually are not from Bel Air Beach. And as entertaining as our meetings are, if we could, they're on item 30. I thought possibly, if it's okay with the council, we could move that to the front of the regular agenda, so they don't have to go through the entire.
So we're on agenda item 1, which is the first order of business, approval of the agenda. So before we can do that, someone's going to have to make a motion to amend the agenda. So are you making a
Yes,
motion
sir.
to amend the agenda?
I move that we amend the agenda.
Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
Second by Jody Shirley. All right, because we're just voting to amend the agenda, there's no discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, well then, the agenda is amended. Now, I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Can we clarify, we're moving number 30?
Correct. Yes,
Up
sir.
to
Up to be the first item under the regular agenda. So I don't know if we would make that 21A and 21B, or the easiest way to make that happen.
So what I would like to do is, rather than renumbering,
Okay,
we'll just call it item number 30, and it'll be before number 1.
that's perfect.
Is that okay with you, Patty?
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Motion made by Lloyd Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jody Shirley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So, all right, one opposed. So the motion passes, and so the agenda is amended. So we will move right over to item number 30. Bear with me.
Mayor, just some clarity. It was my understanding that Mr. Roberts' amendment was such that it would make item 30 the first regular agenda item before what is presently 21. So it would still be, it would move to the beginning of the regular agenda queue, not ahead of all the other items.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we will make that, we'll put that right at the regular, as the regular agenda begins. All right, so now we are on to citizen comments, item number 2. If any citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. We ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If any council member would like to respond to citizens' comments, please hold your responses until we reach council comments at the end of the meeting. Before I call on random citizens, we already have 2 cards completed to speak. The first is Clifford Gibbons.
Make this quick, and I know we have to give you our name and address, Clifford Gibbons, 2300 Gulf Boulevard. I'm here for a happy occasion. We've had something happen here in the last 3 months that is rare that happens in any governmental unit, and that's the tenaciousness of Mayor Gaddis and his leadership and persistence in rapidly coming to the crisis that we had after Hurricane Dave, and coming up with a dune restoration program in which he absolutely spearheaded and marshaled it all the way through success. And I urge everyone to get out there and see what he did, because it's just amazing. 400 dump trucks a day coming in from Orlando with total precision. And let me say, Kyle did a lot to be able to help get all of the permitting together. And Mr. Mayor, you deserve an enormous amount of credit, because you single-handedly did this. I watched it. And I just think that everybody in this community has really got to be proud of what you did. And I'm here just to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. I appreciate it. Normally, I don't respond to citizen comments, but I will add that the county responded to multiple requests, and at the end of the day, they control the purse strings, and they did get it done. And so we owe just a world of gratitude to the county also for handing over some of that bad tax to protect our city. All right, we have another citizen who has requested to speak. It's J.J. Swern. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. And I apologize for my app, but I caught it the last second. So, and I do like to commend the city for the dune restoration. We just had a couple of questions as concerned citizens. I'm at 2760 Gulf Boulevard, the Bel Air Beachcomber. I think that it's a great job. There was a tremendous amount of trucks coming in. We're right on the seawall where the beach begins, and the sand is incredible. At the same time, it's almost too incredible. It's awfully high, almost to the point that residents that have a first floor access to the beach have no view of the beach because the sand is so high. Now, we do have existing sea oats and other things there for the dunes. But with regards to I consider myself still young, but we have also elderly people in our community, and to be able to walk out on the beach, you have to go up really high. Most people can't do it, and then the drop off is just almost dead down to the beach. So I'm concerned for the safety that the hazards created by creating the dune so high. And we haven't really seen, and I might have missed it in an email with regards to what the final plan is, but from when we talked to the people last week when they completed, and we're right at the Morgan Street beach access, they said this is it. So we just had concerns. We're not sure if they're going to be planting any more vegetation up there, if they're planning on leveling it off. But as it is right now, it does seem somewhat interesting as to how residents have access to the beach, because it's such a high incline that most elderly people, I think, would have enough time getting upstairs, let alone being able to walk up to the beach. The beach is also somewhat soft in that point, so wherever you put your feet in, you're digging in probably a foot or so. So we were just kind of hoping that maybe the city could give us a little bit more idea of what they're planning on doing with they're putting sea grapes, are they planning on leveling it off? But there is somewhat of an access problem for residents that are directly on the beach. So hopefully that can be addressed, and that we can have some sort of vision as to what the final product, and if that is the final product, then we'll have to deal with it. But hopefully they'll level it off somewhat so that everyone can have access to the beach.
Thank you, Mr. Zern. I appreciate your concerns, and we'll have someone get back.
Okay, thank you.
Would any other citizens like to speak, please? Yes.
Hi, Mayor, council members, good evening. I'm Tammy LaBenda, 97 Harbor Drive. I'm just here for a couple of save the dates, representing both our community foundation and the Park and Rec Board. The first thing I'd like to make sure everybody takes note of is the foundation is having a holiday food drive. The boxes are in the lobby. It started on November 1st, and the last pickup to get it out is November 17th. December 4th is our holiday social and Christmas tree lighting. We once again will have it catered with heavy apps and sweets, and then we'll do the Christmas tree lighting, and we'll have some nice new Bel Air Beach logo items for sale for the holidays. January 13th is the Health and Wellness Fair. One slight change with that this year, it is only 3 hours long. It's from 10:30 to 1:30 instead of from 10 to 2. And the last thing I'd like to mention is our January 20th bridge cleanup. The one that we had in October was a little light and mighty, but there is still a tremendous amount of garbage underneath the bridge from the hurricane. So we are going to bring in hopefully some people from Keep Pinellas Beautiful to help us clean under the bridge, but we're really going to try to get the word out for the January 20th cleanup to get all that garbage picked up from underneath the bridge. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaBenda. Any other citizens? All right, citizen comments are now closed. So now we're on to item number 3. This is a presentation from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, beginning with Law Enforcement Monthly Report from Sergeant Bowen. Hello, Sergeant. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm going to cover the statistics for your city for the month of September. This past September, you had 1 theft, which is the same as what was the month before in August. Just looking at year-to-date, though, the UCR and property crimes and person crimes are down. Last September, we had 23, and we're at 16 for the year. In September, the city had 7 people arrested here. There were actually 10 charges. The majority of the charges were traffic related, so 6 out of the 10 were traffic. As far as deputy activity, there were 664 events that occurred with 797 deputies responded. Looking at them, the top, the majority of the calls that we responded were directed patrols, traffic stops, house checks, vehicle illegally parked or abandoned, and ordinance violations. So that accounted for almost 80% of all the events. There was one crash that was documented for September, and there were 192 citations. The majority of those were warnings, with that being 115. 51 were parking, and 19 were traffic. I was also provided with the annual stats. Did you want me to go over that as well? It was October 1st through September 30th. Looking at the number of offenses that occurred, the majority for the year, the highest number that you'll see is 22 burglary conveyances, which could be cars being broken into, more than likely. And then the rest after that, that you see double digits, is pretty much traffic offenses such as DUIs or driving on a suspended license. As far as incidents, the higher number of incidents are information calls. So 16 of those were taken by our Marine unit. 20 had some sort of a narcotics background to it, whether it be a person finding narcotics or it being disposed of, and then 18 were ordinance violations. As far as the number of arrests for the year, there were 43 subjects arrested for misdemeanors on 56 charges, and that accounts for 60% of the arrests that occurred. There were 18 on felony and 11 people arrested on warrants. As far as total citations for the year, there were 2,206. Of those, parking were 551. Traffic citations were 289, and warnings were 1,333. And then for our crashes that occurred in the city for the entire year, there were a total of 9. And almost half of them, 4 of them, were at Gulf Boulevard and Causeway Boulevard. That concludes the information I have. Is there any questions?
Council, any questions? Thank you very much, Sergeant. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Now we're on to the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. Deputy Clapton here tonight.
Deputy Clapton's out of town, so let me take the report. One thing I noted, we have a pretty typical monthly code report here to about 60 to 70 events. This month, if you look at the pie chart, a little bit more attention was given to the front yards and the overgrowth of weeds, overgrowth of plants obstructing neighboring properties, and clutter. So a little bit less than we're used to on the construction-related nuisances. So Deputy Clerk must be making an impact on that, because we're used to seeing higher. Pretty good distribution throughout the city, and as far as covering all the streets. And we still have the same 2 outstanding code cases that we've had for months now. So I'm hoping to get to a resolution soon on the construction project getting wrapped up and the other structure that needs a permit from the county.
Council, any questions for Deputy Riefler? No questions? Thank you very much. All right. So now we'll move on to item number 4, a presentation from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and our community. Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief for Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Here to tell you everything that's going on with the fire district, as well as the monthly report for October 2023 for Bel Air Beach. So we just, last meeting, I told you that we were awarded a FEMA grant. It's called a SAFER grant. It's a Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Responses, where it's 100% FEMA funded. We were able to hire 4 additional firefighters. And we just recently completed that. So all 4 new firefighter EMTs are on board. And 2 of them are former Marines, and 1 is former Coast Guard. And that's something very special to me because now we have 14 of our personnel who are prior military, about 30% of our personnel, which is pretty exceptional. So hiring those 4 additional firefighters gives an additional fire suppression unit on the beaches. So the unit that we had down south was only 2 persons, although it was built as an engine. It technically can only run as a squad, which, because it only had 2 firefighters on it, but now it has 3 firefighters on it every single day. So that's improving the fire service and the EMS service all along the beaches as well. We're going to be advertising for an RFP for 3 new fire stations. The first advertisement should run on Sunday, and it's going to be open for 30 days. And we received an unsolicited proposal from a P3 to build 3 of our fire stations, rebuild them. They're all, as you know, 58 years old, 53 years old, and one is not actually a fire station, it's rented space in an office building. So that ad will run for, be on Sunday, be open for 30 days. We're also going to be posting for an RFQ for anyone who wants to put in for a design build for our mainland station, which is going to house our Emergency Operations Center. We're also working side by side with the county. We're trying to incorporate mid-year funding this March so that we could have a peak time rescue unit for the weekends to provide a better service to Bel Air Beach. Until the new fire station is built, and then it would be full-time. The plan is to move the fire engine that's in Indian Rocks Beach Station to the northern end of Indian Rocks Beach. The property is located between 24th and 25th Avenue, 3 blocks from your border here. And when we get the rescue full-time, that'll be centrally located on southern Indian Rocks Beach. We met today with the property owners. We're looking at, been talking for almost 2 years now, trying to negotiate a property with the Church of the Isles, which is a great location in order to provide the best response times here. You'll have, from that property to this building right here is under 2-minute response time, which is our goal. And we're hoping that we have all that finalized and a deal in place by March. We have some meetings in January, and everything is positive and we're moving forward with that. We're also, there's a lot going on. We're also going to the legislative session this year for appropriations in order to rebuild existing Fire Station 27, which was originally built in 1965. It's a 58-year-old fire station, the original station. Because our district actually started here in 1951 as volunteer firefighters in 1951, and that was the original fire station that we're still operating out of. There were some additions made to it, but we need to have a state-of-the-art facility. And we have State Representative Kimberly Burfield, who's sponsoring our request. Very positive that everything's going to go well, and that request is for $7 million. So all good things, a lot of good things going on. October was a slow month for emergency responses into Bel Air Beach, which is a good thing. We had 12 emergency responses to Bel Air Beach, including 2 water rescues, 2 fire calls, 1 motor vehicle crash, and 7 calls for emergency medical services. I wanted to apologize that we were not able to be at the Pets and Paws event on October 28th. The crews were on their way here. Unfortunately, there was a pretty bad motor vehicle crash, and we had 3 adolescent trauma alerts, and they were tied up there for quite some time, so or else we would have been here. In October, we had 592 fire training hours and 179 medical training hours for a combined total of 771 training hours for the month of October. So we are constantly training our firefighters and paramedics. And lastly, we want to wish everybody a blessed and safe Thanksgiving season. And remember that the most common cause of residential fires, anybody know? It's unattended cooking, right? Unattended cooking. So we urge you to keep a fire extinguisher near your kitchen and don't hesitate to call 911 after you've gotten your family and your loved ones out of the building. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate you on the extra personnel. That's quite an accomplishment, so good job there. Questions or comments from anyone on the council? No? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
Oh, I do have one request. I've asked for this before. You've got a nice report that you're looking at, and we're not, and that's a lot of numbers for us to try to drink in.
Okay.
It's sort of like drinking from a fire hose. So
I recommend it.
if you could email a copy of that
I
before
will.
the meeting, and that way it'll show up in our agenda, and we can review it with you.
Absolutely. I'll get that so you have it a few days before your meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thanks for coming to Feller Beach tonight.
All right, have a good night.
All right, we're on to agenda item number 5, which is the city attorney's report. Mr. Mora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, as you folks are aware, it's been seen at the end of the road here. We did receive a resignation from another council member late last month. We were working on the process for, and I mentioned we would discuss it at some point tonight for Member Livingstone's vacancy. As we speak of vacancies, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge as a charter officer that this is, I believe, Patty's last meeting with us, and it's been a pleasure in my 1 year here and change to get to work with such a professional person, somebody who's so attentive to detail and really cares about the job she's done for you guys, and it's going to be, regardless of how we move forward, a loss for the city, I think, and just thank you, Patty, for the chance to work with you. Otherwise, I have nothing else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Council? Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Right now, we're on to the city manager's report. Mr. Russo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of these projects, we have our Gulf Bowl running project continuing. Waiting for Duke to wire the phase 1 section and completing design plans and permitting for phase 2. The stormwater improvement projects, combined projects are on the agenda tonight to have the plans and final bid approved to go out and advertise on Wednesday, November 8th. The emergency shore stabilization project is still underway. Most of the sand has been moved into place. The planting is in restoration of the dunes, or of the planting of the dunes, I should say, restoration of the access point in Loring Park is still being completed. I will communicate more with the county to find out the final expectation for the dunes as far as the slope and compaction of the sand. So we can answer some of the questions that were asked during citizen comments. So far, what I do know is that the access points are 44 inches wide through the vegetation, and the idea is to maintain as much grade on that pathway to prevent the water from getting to the properties. The city clerk search, I put on the agenda as one of my plans. We have a candidate, our top qualified candidate here tonight for the city council to interview. I've included all of the applications we've received for the opening. And the RFP for auditing services, we're drafting that. Want to have it released in December. And another agenda item tonight is the code review services. Found a contract that I'd like to get approved to piggyback. And I just want to also thank Patty. I got to spend a little over a year working with her as her city clerk, and her knowledge is really, I've learned a lot from her and a lot of this city, and she's been here a long time. She's definitely will be a loss, and I'll miss the day-to-day with her. But I just want to saying how much she's appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reefer. Do we have any questions or comments for the city manager? No? Okay, so I do. Whenever you contact the county, would you ask them, right now, I suspect the sand is fluffy, that it's light, airy, and it's going to nourish a lot of our beach, because I can't see it staying that high. So as it starts dropping down, it has to go somewhere, or it's going to get packed down one way or the other. If they find out that, or they say that, nope, at the end, it's only going to drop X number of feet, at least that's our expectations, do we have a plan in place to do anything for the residents and their walkways, or is climbing a big hill the only way out?
I believe the hill would get easier to climb, but from the answer I got from the Public Works Director was that the intention of the design was to go over the path to go over the dune as much as possible, and she provided some other examples down south.
And the way that, the way that it was explained to me was that anywhere there's a low point in the dam, it's going to act as a funnel. If we have a storm surge, that's where the water's going to go. So you definitely don't want to be right behind it if it's carved out too much. I think you're probably right. It's just going to be a settling more than anything, and maybe over time it'll get carved out just for people using it. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
When they did that, I noticed there was no like vibrating roller to compress that sand, so it's like you said, fluffy, and the wind's going to blow it. Heat's going to move it. One good storm is going to suck it back into the ocean. Is there anything coming up to like preserve that, like a boundary around it? Put like a lower boundary around that, because I can't see that sand lasting too long. Or is that just all county engineering?
I think it's a combination of the county and the state. I will get an answer on that question, because this is the first beach project I've seen where they truck the sand in, so I'm not sure what the expectations are.
What was the total cost of that? Over 20 million, right? For Pinellas County?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the goal was to bring the sand in, pack it down as much as they could, grade it off, and then put vegetation on it, so something would be.
And the only thing they had was a little low-profile dozer pushing that sand. Wasn't really too much of a compaction.
Councilmember Baker, I've asked for sand for several years now, and we got sand. It may not be in the form of beach nourishment, but I can assure you it's going to nourish our beaches.
Anything to prevent flooding, storm surge, I'm 100% for. But what I was so upset with our county that 4 or 5 years ago when I went to them about these perpetual rights, I said, look, no one's moving on this. We need to either go to court and get a court order on the perpetual rights, or a court order that the Army Corps of Engineers is incorrect. And they said, we're trying to work it out in a medial fashion, which never really works out. So what we did was we spent an exorbitant amount of money to bring sand in from Orlando, when they're saying 20 yards off the beach that we could have gotten from the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, my question is, if beach renourishment and the perpetual rights get signed, will the county have the money to do beach renourishment if they have any up their shit? Or are we completely?
I can assure you they have the money. If they're willing to spend $300 million on a baseball stadium, they'll find the money.
Well, I'm hoping.
Anything else, Mr. Reefer?
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, now we are on to item number 7, which is the city clerk's report. Ms. Gentry, you have the floor.
Thank you. My report is just a standard recap of the monthly activities. But Mayor, I would like to say one thing. I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed working with this council. This council has been the best to work with. And it makes my daily job unbelievably fulfilling. And Kyle is the best city manager I have ever worked for. I work for him every day, and he is the best. So thank you for letting me say that.
Do we have any comments for the city clerk? Mr. Roberts.
So when I found out Patty was leaving, I had a brief conversation with her as to what she was going to do. And the sole reason she told me was to spend more time with her grandchildren, which is awesome. But when I looked through the city charter, I found that that particular reason requires a 10-year notice. So, we can't break any rules here.
Patty, as a labor guy, you're an at-will employee.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Patty, I can say it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. You saved my butt more than one time. You'd say, I don't have enough fingers. The number of times that you've called me out on a mistake. But you were doing your job, and you made this job very, very easy. I don't have other clerks to compare you to, but if I did, I'm almost certain that I would still say that you are the best.
Thank you.
You're going to be severely, sorely missed. And please come back and visit us from time to time, all right?
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Now we are on to the consent agenda, which is items 8 through 15. Apparently, Patty wanted to wrap up all of her business before she left. So, everyone just bear with me. This is for approval of the August 21st, 2023 City Council Work Session minutes, the August 28th, 2023 Emergency City Council Meeting minutes, the September 6th, 2023 City Council Meeting and First Public Budget Hearing Meeting minutes, the September 18th, 2023 Final Public Budget Hearing minutes, the September 18th, 2023 City Council Work Session minutes, the October 2nd, 2023 City Council Meeting minutes, the October 16th, 2023 Special City Council Meeting minutes, and the October 16th, 2023 City Council Work Session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as written.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Leslie Natero. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. Thank you so much for your hard work, Patty.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are to the second reading and final public hearing items, which are items number 16 through 20. So I'm going to start out with item number 16. This is for consideration of ordinance 23-06. This is the second reading. Mr. Mora, whenever you read these, would you read them maybe just slightly slower?
If I must. Happily, Mr. Mayor. This is City of Bel Air Beach Ordinance Number 23-06, Charter Amendment Number 1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, submitting to the city electors a referendum question on the amendment of Section 2.02 of the Charter to increase the number of permissible consecutive terms for City Council members, including the mayor, from 2 terms to 3 terms, identifying the issue to appear on said ballot, providing for renumbering, providing for the adoption of ballot language by resolution, providing for publication in accordance with the law, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance number 23-06 by title only, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to comment on ordinance 23-06? All right, citizen comments are closed. Before we continue, I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 23-06.
So moved.
Motion is made by Leslie Natero. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Ms. Natero, you have the floor.
I think we've been over this so many times, there's not much we can add to it at this point.
Council.
I'll reiterate again, I don't believe this is a proper time to be changing our charter. We've only had the charter change, 2.5 years ago. It needs to be readdressed every 5 to 6 years. This is like a self-serving. These changes I see as self-serving. We're going from 2 to 3 terms. We elect the president no more than 2 terms, the governor no more than 2 terms. I don't think people on council should be serving more than 2 terms. Plus, we have that caveat, you only have to leave 1 year and you can run again. This is unnecessary.
Any other comments from council?
I just want to remind the public that this is a ballot item and the citizens will vote on it, so no matter what's decided during this vote right now, it's just to put it on the ballot and allow the citizens to make the decision.
Nicely said, Vice Mayor. Would anyone else like to comment? All right, in that case, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert,
No.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye, so the citizens get to decide. The second reading of ordinance 23-06 is approved. Right now, we are on to item number 17. This is consideration of ordinance 23-07. This is a second reading. City Attorney Moore.
Mr. Mayor, City of Bel Air Beach ordinance number 23-07 for charter amendment number 2. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, submitting to the city electors a referendum question on the amendment of sections 2.01, 2.02, and 2.07 of the charter to reduce the number of at-large members on the City Council, including the mayor, from 7 members to 5 members, to specify the timeline for transitioning to 5 members, and to adjust the corresponding voting requirements for official action of a 5-member council, identifying the issue to appear on said ballot, providing for renumbering, providing for the adoption of ballot language by resolution, providing for publication in accordance with the law, and providing for an effective date. This has been a full reading of ordinance 23-07 on the second reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. It's harder to do it when I slow you down.
It does.
All right, let's go to the citizens for comments on ordinance 23-07. Would anyone like to speak? All right, seems we have no takers. Citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 23-07.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Notero. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roberts. Mr. Notero, you have the floor.
Well, as Vice Mayor Shirley just said, that we're not voting to make this approval, we are going to put it on the ballot to give it to the citizens to make the decision.
Thank you. Councilmember Notero. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes. Mr. Banker.
While I'm big on reducing the size of government, mostly financial-wise, again, this is not the appropriate time, I believe, to do it. Yes, this will go on the ballot, okay? But when I was going around campaigning, you wouldn't believe how many people didn't even know there was a council for Bel Air Beach when I was telling them I was running for council. So, again, you pump enough wine and cheese into people, mislead them with information, you just about get anything passed today. So, again, I'm against these ordinances or these resolutions and these changes to the charter.
Thank you, Councilmember Baker. Would anyone else like to speak on this topic? Yes?
After Lloyd.
Roberts.
Thank you. We have discussed this a lot. I think there's a couple of main reasons that come to mind. The first one being that Mr. Mayor checked around other cities and towns similar in size to us, and we were one of the very few that actually had 7 people sitting on either the commission or the council. Most of all of them had 5, which makes the most sense, coupled with the fact that we anticipate there'll be probably less people interested in running for these seats based on some new requirements handed down from the state. So we really don't want to be in a situation where it's difficult to actually find candidates that are interested in order to fill the 7. So it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any other comments? All right, and I would like to second Mr. Roberts' thoughts on that. With everything that's going on with the full financial disclosure, it's getting harder and harder to find candidates. We were already too big, and now we're going to be too big with a city that is not interested in running. So really, it's in our best interest to reduce the council from 7 to 5. And I believe that once this goes to ballot, the citizens will agree. All right.
On that note, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Roberts, I believe Mr. Moore may verify this. I believe the state has given us a caveat that the city cannot produce enough people. They will come in and give us people or appoint people.
I'm not totally sure I understand the statement you're making.
If the city cannot produce enough council members or to have enough people to run for office, there's not a provision, I believe in it might not be in the Constitution, but it's a statute that the governor can appoint people.
I want to be cautious as I say this. The governor is certainly the chief executive and chief administrative officer. He may have some statutory authority to make appointments. I think the broader point you get is you have to have qualified and willing electors to serve. There's no statement that absent volunteers that the governor will by fiat of the legislature. Otherwise, that said, there is also the reason I was cautious in wanting to understand your question is there are some indications of the legislature looking at beach communities on peninsulas like this and elsewhere and opining that the existence of these communities is a redundancy that should be consolidated. And so you're seeing similar efforts, and that's something that on a home rule basis, I think local jurisdictions would want to resist. But I just wanted to make sure I understood your question.
I'm not even going to touch that one. Anyone else? All right.
I'll just speak up just for a second, is that just reiterating why we need to reduce the number of people on council or why we should allow the citizens to make that decision, because the last thing I think I want is someone at the state level running our local cities, and that is what we're trying to avoid.
I agree 100%. And if we're not able to successfully implement our charter, who knows what could happen. I don't even want to think about it. I want to keep Bel Air Beach the way that it is. I want to keep our city attractive. What brought each of you here is what I want Bel Air Beach to be. And the way things are going, there are forces against us all the time. So this community is near and dear to my heart, and I truly believe that this is the right direction for our city. Any other comments? All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
No.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. And again, we're not changing anything. We're just merely giving the citizens the right to vote on this topic. Second reading of ordinance 23-07 is approved by this council. Now we are on to item number 18, consideration of ordinance 23-08. This also is the second reading. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is City of Bel Air Beach ordinance number 23-08, Charter Amendment number 3. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, submitting to the city electors a referendum question on the amendment of sections 2.02, 2.04, and 5.05 of the Charter to increase the term of office for individual council members, including the mayor, from 3 years to 4 years, and to amend the regular election schedule to accommodate such terms, identifying the issue to appear on said ballot, providing for the adoption of ballot language by resolution, providing for publication in accordance with the law, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance number 23-08 by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Let's go to the citizens for comments on ordinance 23-08. Would anyone like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 23-08. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Lloyd Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Leslie Notaro. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Thank you. One of the things we want to try to get done by council, and of course, as we've said multiple times, it will be voted on by the citizens. We would like at the end of the day, and that's something that's talked about in a later amendment, to have our voting take place the same time the general election, when the president is selected, as well as the midterms. More people statistically turn out for those votes by far. So the fact that we have ours in odd years doesn't fit into that square peg. So that's one of the main reasons I think we're trying to get this part is 4 years, which are even number of years. 3 years will never achieve that. It's an honor. It's just a math.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I will add that aligning the elections, everyone votes for the president. There are other elections where there's very little turnout, sometimes in the teens. This is going to be the best way to hear the voice of Bel Air Beach citizens by aligning with the presidential and midterm elections. Other council members, anyone like to speak? Yes, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I find these things contradictory from past comments and past ordinances or proposed to be passed. If it's going to be so hard to find people to run for this council, why would we be increasing the number of years? That just doesn't make any sense. People would want to be getting off sooner. The terms wouldn't be, who would want to run for 3 years if it's going to be so, egregious to be on the council member. So none of this makes sense in my opinion. So.
Yes, Mr. Chester.
I can address that. I think just serving, period, regardless of how long, takes a lot of thoughtfulness because there's a very invasive financial disclosure that you have to put forth now. And I think it's going to be getting harder to get people to serve. And if you can get people to serve, I think it would be better to try to get them to serve longer if they're willing to do it. So I think that's the reason behind that, in my view.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. Mr. Baker, I see you over there itching to say something.
Well, absolute power absolutely corrupts. So the longer you stay in, you usually get more corrupt in government. That's why we have 535 people in Congress that nobody likes. Except for our own electors.
Is that your final word?
Yes.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to add that by aligning with the national elections, then we also save the city quite a bit of money. So we're not adding elections and extra work for the clerk, which is a huge benefit to the city. And the corruption on it is just ridiculous. In the city, we have no authority to do anything without city manager. City manager has all the authority. We just advise and help him through the process. So this is, that's just a ridiculous.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Shirley. Any other comments? All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Banker,
No. That's 4 no's.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So once again, the citizens will get the opportunity to tell us what they would like to have. The second reading of ordinance 23-08 is approved. Now we are on to item number 19. We're getting close to the end of these ordinances. This is for consideration of ordinance 23-09. Again, a second reading. City Attorney Mora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City of Bel Air Beach Ordinance Number 23-09, Charter Amendment Number 4. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, submitting to the city electors a referendum question on the amendment of Section 5.05 of the Charter to adjust the regular election cycle from March to November, contingent on the passage of a separate ballot measure governing the duration of councilmember terms, identifying the issue to appear on said ballot, providing for the adoption of ballot language by resolution, providing for publication in accordance with the law, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance number 23-09 by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Anyone like to speak on ordinance 23-09? Seeing that we have none, we'll bring it back to the council and close citizen comments. Before we continue, I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 23-09.
So moved.
Motion made by Lloyd Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Shirley. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's basically what I said earlier, and a couple of other members expressed as well. We want to move it from March to November, so that we'll be tied in with the general election as well as the midterms. I actually was watching television maybe a month or so ago, and it was either the city of Tampa or Hillsborough County. As we all know, when we turn on Spectrum, it goes immediately to Bay News 9, typically. And they were doing the same thing, and they discussed items, like our vice mayor just brought up, how much money it was going to save them by moving to the November election time period. And they also gave out the statistics. When they do have voting that takes place on the November elections, the percentage of people that turn out is like in the high 60s, and any other time, it was in the teens. So pretty dramatic difference.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, question. How many beach communities have their elections in November for city council towns? Does anyone know that? My recollection is most of them are in March.
I'm not sure. I can tell you that I've spoken to the elections board, and they have confirmed that we would reduce the cost of our elections.
So I understand that, but I'm just wondering, I don't know any other beach communities that have the elections in March.
Or you're in luck, because whenever we have elections in March, we don't vote for any of those communities. So that works out.
Yeah, I understand it, but what I'm saying is each community runs their elections in March on the beach. So I'm just wondering how many have it in November, because I don't know any.
So
Mr. Roberts.
there's a pretty easy answer to that. We're just smarter than they are.
Or dumber.
Any other comments? Nope. All right, let's take it to a vote. Patty, would you please call a roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
No.
Councilmember Chester.
Yes.
Councilmember Notero.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So the second reading of ordinance 23-09 is approved, and we will take it to the citizens for a vote. All right. Now we're on to item number 20, consideration of ordinance 23-10. This is also a second reading. City Attorney Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance 23-010. Yes, 10. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending Section 38-87 of the city's Code of Ordinances governing the permitting process for special events, associated costs and fees, and potential penalties for unpermitted or non-compliant special events providing for the implementation of administrative actions, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This has been a first reading of ordinance 23-10 by title only.
Was that a first reading?
Was it? Sorry, second reading of ordinance 23-10 by title only, Mr. Mayor.
All right, let's go to the citizens for comments. Any citizen like to speak? Nope. All right, citizen comments are now closed. Before we continue on the second reading of this one, I'm going to need a motion from the council. Anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Shirley? Second.
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
This is something that has been brought up in front of us. I think actually, City Attorney Warren brought to our attention that there was a potential problem with the ordinance that needed to be modified, and so this is the second time we're looking at it, so therefore, I think I'd defer to more if there's Attorney Warren, if there's anything to add to it.
Nothing to add. Again, this is the ordinance, and thank you again for the reminder that we're on second reading. This is the ordinance that was the outgrowth of some community outreach we received from an activist organization. Having reviewed the ordinance independent of their concerns, I reached similar conclusions about the history of our ordinance, its language, its vagaries, frankly, and how it aligned with certain constitutional principles. This is a robust ordinance that addresses those concerns and is the product of a collaborative effort between us and that organization to address this issue. I will add, as a matter of pragmatism or practicality, this is not an issue that has come up a great deal in the past. The fact that it's not a frequent problem doesn't mean it's a problem not worth addressing. And so we have the ordinance before you as an attempt to rectify those issues.
I guess I was just saying we talked about it.
It's been talked about, yeah, this began in April, discussion about this, and for various reasons, we're here now, but we are here with a revised ordinance to resolve that.
As much as I hate when Bel Air Beach is picked on, which it doesn't happen all by outside organizations, I actually am glad they did, because this organization was civil enough to work through it with us, come up with a mutual solution, and rather than taking it to a lawsuit, we got it worked out. So I'm happy. Any other comments from the council? Nope. All right, Patty, let's take it to a vote. Please call it.
Councilmember Banker?
Yes.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I really didn't hear you.
Nice job, Patty.
Yes? Councilmember Chester?
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley?
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis?
Aye. So ordinance 23-10 is approved unanimously. Okay, now we are on to the regular agenda, and as promised by an amended agenda, we move right over to item number 30. This is a request to the city of Bel Air Beach from Indian Rocks Beach property owner for a letter of no objection to set piling and construct an 11 by 12 dock extension on the front of the existing dock, install a new 13,000-pound capacity boat lift to the right of the dock, and a 1,500-pound capacity personal watercraft lift on the left side adjacent to Bel Air Beach South Park. This is placed on the agenda by City Manager Riefler. So, Mr. Riefler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So this request came in via email for ask the city manager through the website, and this is for property in Indian Rocks Beach. The address is 300 Harbor Drive, Indian Rocks Beach, and the owner of record is Bert Nocera. And Mr. Nocera has asked as part of his variance application for the city being the owner of the property, which is South Park, at the very southern edge of Bel Air Beach, where it borders Indian Rocks Beach. to get consent from the city being the property owner as a requirement for their variance application. Each side of the property owner requesting the variance needs to give consent to the request. And being that the city is the owner, the city council represents ownership of the property, and I put it on the agenda so that it can be considered by city council. There is an existing dock on the property at 300 Harbor Drive, Indian Rocks Beach. That dock has been there for quite some time, closer to the early 2000s. I included an aerial image from the property appraiser's website that shows the existing dock and shows where the South Park's property line extends out into the waterway. And currently the existing dock is right up on the South Park property line, the projection of the property line. And then I requested Mr. Musira's company of choice for the dock construction, which was Spieler, to present the dock plan, the drawing, showing the projection of the Bel Air Beach property line with the design that he selected, so that you can see how the dock will encroach into the projection of the property line. So those are both attached to this, and I'd like to present this to council for consideration. And I believe the property owner, Mr. Musira, is here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Riefler. Now we will go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? No? All right, and that includes the property owner.
I'm sorry, not a citizen of Bel Air Beach, so I didn't know.
Just give us your name and your address.
300 Harbor Drive, Indian Rocks Beach, we're your neighbors to the south. We've recently purchased, my name? Bert Nocera, my wife Joan Nocera. We recently purchased 300 Harbor Drive, lived in Indian Rocks since 2008, and the current dock is 24 feet out, as the city manager explained, but we're wanting to add a boat lift, and the water is very shallow, and so we're trying to get the dock out far enough to be able to include the boat lift on there. So that's the purpose of the extension. And as was explained, it encroaches on the property line of the Bel Air. We've gotten approval of the south side owners, and you are our north side owners, so we humbly request your approval.
Just that when we purchased the property, we were not aware of how sharp that property line went out into the water. And so it is sort of an unusual situation, in that it makes it very narrow for us to try to put any kind of extension on again, because we were trying to get to deeper water so that we can have a boat.
Your property angles to our property, so that's what causes that angle in there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Any other comments?
Nope.
All right, thank you so much for
Thank
speaking.
you.
Would any other citizens like to address the council? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Before we continue this discussion, I'm going to need a motion to approve a letter of no objection to building dock extension that crosses municipal boundaries and enters Bel Air Beach public property. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Leslie Natero. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roberts. Ms. Natero, you have the floor.
I think the last page in the book of the drawing of where it goes over the Bel Air Beach property line, it's a very minimal
concerned because all I'm seeing is I'm seeing something from the property tax appraiser site that appears a lot different than the doc drawing. The doc drawing is not necessarily a survey, so I don't know which one's correct. I'm not going to say that the property tax appraiser site is correct either, because those lines kind of float a bit. So I think before we could even consider it, we need to see a survey. If the property tax appraiser site is correct, we would really encroach into the park's waterfront. And as a representative of the city of Bel Air Beach, I think we need to protect our assets, and I would be reluctant to approve something like this without proper information. And I don't think we have the right information.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Do we have other comments? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I did have a conversation with Kyle earlier today because I just wanted to verify similar things that the Vice Mayor just said. So Kyle, between those two drawings, what is your take on which one you feel is even more accurate or is accurate versus the basically the picture from above?
Vice Mayor Shirley is correct with the property appraiser's lines do float a bit. They're just overlays in the GIS database. So that's not exactly accurate. I did provide the design engineer at Spieler with a plan from the First and Second Street stormwater project to give them a little bit more accurate survey of property lines. So they used that to give this rendering. It's not, certified drawing, so I still think it's not completely, it's not, it'd be better to have a survey if we're looking for exact measurements.
So if I could address the property owner real quick, does he need to come back up?
Sure, please come back up.
So hi again, Mr. and Mrs. Lucero. So the drawing that you provided to us, is that, and I think I know the answer already based on the city manager's comment, is this a survey company provided this, or was this a picture, a design, a drawing that the engineering firm put together?
It came from Spieler, the engineering firm that would be doing the work.
Okay. So what data and information did they use to provide the location of the property lines and that type of information? Was it a current survey or some other source?
I think what the city manager was able to provide them, but I'm sure they had other information. I'm not 100% sure what they used to come up with the drawing. One of the things that I see on it is that there's an easement between our lot and where Bel Air Beach's lot starts. So that could be the confusion there, I don't know.
That's an Indian Rocks right away. That's gap between the two property lines.
So that 20-foot easement is Indian Rocks and Beach's easement?
28th Avenue North right away extends all the way
It's
out.
our property, but it's an easement that they would be allowed to.
Right. Okay.
Our property.
Okay. So the two property lines are identified there, and like you expressed earlier, they kind of come to a wedge eventually out there and
Yeah.
hit. So right now, pretty much the entirety of the existing dock is in the easement area.
It is.
Okay.
I think that depends on what you're looking at, right? So when you're looking at the aerial photo, the corner of the dock goes into South Park.
Correct. And that was just an overlay, Kyle? Who put that together?
That's right off of this.
Right.
have looked at the Pinellas County website as well, also on another property in Rock Beach, and those lines are
That
very
was my
skewed.
point.
Yeah, they're not to be used.
But unless we have a certified survey, it's hard to know what we're really doing, because this looks a lot different than what was presented. So, you know, I mean, considerably different.
If we provided you a survey of our property, because it doesn't have your line that goes out in the water, but that is just an extension of the property line, would that be adequate?
I believe the dock company is going to need to provide us a better drawing, that they can a surveyor can certify it, is what would be what I would want to look at. I can't speak for anyone else in the council, but I would just want to be sure that, because we are giving up our water rights by allowing you to build over, right? So I need to make sure I know what I'm approving.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Baker.
First, the only reason I didn't vote to amend the agenda, keep glass, is because when citizens get up people on non-agenda items, they always have to wait for the end of the meeting for council to comment. That said, has letters been sent out to like First Street, Second Street, Third Street, Fourth Street, people that use this dock and this park, notifying them of your request? Because is this going to infringe on the site view? People are going to the park? Because I think the citizens that use this park, that live in that area, like any type of a variance request, you have to notify them.
Yeah, there is no dock on that part.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying what they're trying to put in there, is that going to encroach now the view?
It would just be that small corner, and it wouldn't be like you would have any structure on it. The lift is on the complete opposite side, so basically you would have something level with the seawall. It would be level with where they were standing, so that wouldn't.
So there's not going to be any encroachment on vision from the people in this park, that use the park, and the dock that goes out of that park? No?
They'd be able to see the dock, which is level with the seawall.
Yeah. Mr. Chester, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, the only thing, there is, looks like a discrepancy between the drawings. It looks like the overhead view, it's right on the edge of the existing, and on the rendering from Spieler, you're not quite there. I will tell you, I'm a boat owner. I want to help you, but, you know, I'm with Frank. You want to make sure that the people that use this, we don't have something that's going to, even though you're going to have a flat thing there, if you had a 43-foot boat you're putting up on a lift, you're going to block the view of a lot of people.
So,
I don't think.
again, the
I'm
boat,
just saying it's happened to me.
right. The boat lift is on the right side.
I understand that. But you can be on the left side and trying to look out, and if there's a huge boat on a lift there,
Well,
you can't see.
there is also
Okay, I'm
a,
gonna have to, we generally don't have a lot of that, and I don't want to get into this. I'm the only one who's not spoken yet, so bear with me, council. I do feel their pain. However, that does not mean that I give them a pass, and I'll tell you why. I bought a pie-shaped lot. I bought one of the smallest seawalls in this community, and I thought, just like you, I'm going to put a nice big boat out back, and it didn't work out. So what I had to do was a lot of research on how to go as minimalistic as I possibly could. I can tell everyone here the last thing that would ever happen in any Board of Adjustments meeting would be to allow a structure to span across into someone else's property. Anything that you add onto your existing dock that goes out or to the left is going to, as far as I can tell from all drawings that you've given us, it's going to come it's not only going to encroach, it's going to invade into Bel Air Beach property. Once that happens, now you've created a liability to our city. And I know many people could say one way or the other that, no, that never happened, but we've seen all sorts of things happen. I would never give permission to someone in another community to do something in our city that our own city would not do. There are variances. We try to work with people to a minimum so that they're not taking advantage of us. And in this case, I see no way possible that I could approve this, and I'm very sorry. And that's just where I'm going to stand on this. Any other questions or comments from the council? Yes, Mr.
I'm just
Roberts.
looking for the possibility of amending the request to where their dock extension, in fact, would not cross into our property. Instead of having like a rectangular shape, it would effectively be a trapezoid back in my geometry days. So it would, the left-hand side of the dock would now run effectively parallel to the property line and then come over and then back down again. So you're cutting off that triangle. You can envision that on the left-hand side.
Again, Mr. Roberts, if you did that, you are zero. You are right on our property line.
Correct.
We don't do that for anyone.
Well, the existing dock is over there.
Yes, we have no idea how that happened.
Right.
And we weren't involved in that decision, but it did not involve the Board of Adjustments and never will go in front of the Board of Adjustments.
Correct.
So
That's not the problem.
my vote is definitely no on this project.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
does this
sir.
go in front of the Board of Adjustments at all, or is this?
It will not,
It's not seeking relief from this city.
Right.
The only relief they're seeking from the city of Bel Air Beach, because this is Indian Rocks Beach property, is that the Indian Rocks Beach process calls for them to get the input on what the neighbor's position on the issue is. And in this unique case, the city is the neighboring property owner. And so that's why this is before you in the first instance, so they can fill out the forms being asked of them in the adjacent jurisdiction saying, what do the neighbors say? Normally, the neighbor is, two private property owners. Here, the neighbor happens to be a local government. And that's why it's before you folks at all, that you're not passing judgment on the variance as it relates to the, modification of the relief. The relief requested here is in tandem with an application in another jurisdiction. So they're not really in a position to do that as they're here tonight.
Can council direct this to the Board of Adjustments with their?
No, I mean, not really, because it's not really, we're not regulating the matter at all.
Right.
It's really more of just a policy decision when your position is that.
I will also add that because of my design decision, I currently am limited to a 26-foot loop.
Ours is 24 and a half feet. I realize you could say we could buy a different boat down the road, but just,
Any other questions or comments?
I think Spiel could get pretty creative and come up with some other designs too, that can help you all.
I will, I'm going to go ahead and add one more thing. If this was a resident on the other side of that park, there is no way that they would be allowed to do what you're asking for. I'm just saying. And we,
so are you saying we're not even allowed to go up to that line?
in Bel Air Beach, we're not allowed to go up to that line. And so I mean, I can't do anything about the existing dock, but I can certainly stand up and say, I don't agree with making it even worse. And it looks to me like you're going to cross right over into Bel Air Beach. Can we take a vote now?
Thank you for your consideration.
Could I suggest an amendment if the owners are okay with that, based on what I said previously, to where it would not cross, excuse me, cross the line? So it would be parallel with the property line. Now granted, it's going to be close.
I appreciate the council member's effort to try to develop some kind of compromise. My concern as your advisory here is you're being asked based on a form that's been submitted or is in the process of being submitted to another jurisdiction without giving any legal advice to the property owner in the other jurisdiction. They are coming to you based on the relief they've sought elsewhere. So if they've already, I don't know where they are in that process, if they've already made a submission to the other community, they would have to modify those submissions, and it's not just as simple as the mother may I in that instance. So I just want to make sure that's clear in the process. You folks can proceed as you wish.
Can I ask a quick question? What is our current setbacks on for dock? I should know this, but
12 feet.
12 feet. Okay, so that's what we need, 12 feet, right? From our property line to.
And I do know that there have been exceptions, but not to the point of 0.
Maybe down the, yeah, there may be an opportunity to tweak that a little bit, but not much. Is that what I hear you saying?
My recommendation would be to tear down that dock and start over. Are we ready to take a vote on this?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, can we just do this by a, let's just do a voice vote. All in favor of, let's see. Yeah, I'm looking for the best way to, okay. This is to approve a letter of no objection to build a dock extension that crosses municipal boundaries and enters Bel Air Beach public property. All in favor?
To approve it?
To approve it. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's just too much. All right, now we are back in the natural order of things, which is agenda item number 21 in the regular agenda. This is for consideration of resolution 2023-11. Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution 2023-11. A resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, calling for a special election of the city electors to be held on March 19, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to the city electors a referendum question on an amendment to the charter of the City of Bel Air Beach to propose increasing the number of permissible consecutive terms for a city council member from 2 terms to 3, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to appoint poll workers, authorizing the assignment of polling place, and establishing an effective date. I do want to take an opportunity to speak here, Mayor, if I may. This has been a first reading of Resolution 2023-11 by title only, first and final reading. What we've done already, you've already called for the election. The ordinance contemplated that the ballot language would be done by resolution. And so what this does is specifically identify what the ballot language will be for that measure. The ordinance contains all the other detail, but when you submit a ballot question, you have to provide the language, you have to provide the title, which is limited to a certain number of words, and also the ballot language, which is limited to a certain number of words by statute to the supervisor of election. So for clarity, with this resolution, the title is Charter Amendment Number 1, Referendum Increasing Limit on Consecutive Terms. The question that will be submitted, should you approve this resolution in its current form, is shall the city amend the charter to prohibit council members, including the mayor, from serving more than 3 consecutive terms, as opposed to the existing limitation prohibiting a council member from serving more than 2 consecutive terms? Yes to amend the charter provision, no to retain the existing charter provision. And that's what's being proposed here. Everything else is the standard exhortos on the day of the election and all that stuff. But that's really, that section 1 is the meat of this, and you'll see that with each of these resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Let's go to the citizens for comments on resolution 2023-11. right, citizen comments are now closed. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-11? Motion made by Councilmember Notaro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Shirley. Ms. Notaro, you have the floor.
Attorney Moore just said this was simply putting the specific language out there. You've already approved the underlying issue, so I think this is just sort of a technicality, if you will.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
No.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
pardon?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Resolution 2023-11 passes 6-1. I'm sorry, 5-1. All right, now we are on to item number 22, consideration of Resolution 2023-12. Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is City of Bel Air Beach Resolution Number 2023-12, a resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, calling for a special election of the city electors to be held on March 19th, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to the city electors a referendum question on an amendment to sections 2.01, 2.02, and 2.07 of the Charter of the City of Bel Air Beach to propose reducing the number of council members on the City Council from 7 members to 5 members, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to appoint poll workers, authorizing the assignment of polling place, and establishing an effective date. In this case, just for clarity in the record, Mr. Mayor, the charter amendment is to reduce the title is Charter Amendment Number 2, reducing the City Council to 5 members from 7 members. And the question posed is, shall the city amend the charter to provide for a City Council composed of 5, with parentheses the number 5, at-large council members, including the mayor, as opposed to the existing language providing for a city council composed of 7, parentheses 7, at-large city council members, including the mayor, and adjust the corresponding voting requirements for the council to take action. Yes to amend the charter provisions, no to retain the existing charter provisions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Kind of gets redundant after a while. I get it. All right, citizen comments are now closed. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-12? Councilmember Notaro, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Ms. Notaro, you have the floor.
You said on the previous one.
Any other questions or comments? Nope. All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
No.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Resolution 2023-12 passes 5-1. Now we're on to item number 23, which is consideration of Resolution 2023-13. Mr. Moore, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is City of Bel Air Beach Resolution Number 2023-13. A resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, calling for a special election of the city electors to be held on March 19, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to the city electors a referendum question on an amendment to sections 2.02, 2.04, and 5.05 of the Charter of the City of Bel Air Beach to propose increasing the term of office for city council members from 3 years to 4 years, and amending the regular election cycle to accommodate such terms, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to appoint poll workers, authorizing the assignment of polling place, and establishing an effective date. In this instance, the charter title is Charter Amendment Number 3, increasing term of office from 3 years to 4 years. And the question is, shall the city amend this charter to provide that each individual term of office for city council members, including the mayor, shall be for 4 years, as opposed to the existing 3-year term, beginning with the officials elected in 2024, and amend the regular election cycle to accommodate the longer election terms. I want to be clear here, just so that there's no misunderstanding, because the issues have been, I would say, combined in some of the discourse. When we're talking about amending the election cycle here, we're not talking about moving to November. We're talking about adjusting the terms of office to account for these new longer terms, and when will that phase in and phase out based on the various seats on the council. That's what that language is referring to.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Seeing that we have none, citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve Resolution 2023-13.
So moved.
I'm going to give that one to Lloyd Roberts, and I'm going to give the second one to Mark Chester. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Nothing to add.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
Nay.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
No,
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
I'm sorry. I was voting for Frank. It confused me. Yay.
You vote twice?
Would you
I was
call
pleased
Mr.
on my
Roberts'
first
name one
vote.
more
Seriously,
time so
can you
that
vote?
we can get the official,
Yeah. My blood sugar was low.
Yeah, but I don't know if you can vote twice.
I'm sorry,
would you call Mr. Roberts' name one more time so we can
Yes.
get the actual vote?
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Shirley and Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. All right, so resolution 2023-13 passes 5-1. Now we are on item number 24. This is for consideration of resolution 2023-14, and this is the final resolution concerning our election process. Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To clarify, this is our final resolution concerning the charter amendments. There is one more resolution for the elections. This is City of Bel Air Beach Resolution Number 2023-14, a resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, calling for a special election of the city electors to be held on March 19, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to the city electors a referendum question on an amendment to the charter of the City of Bel Air Beach to propose adjusting the city's regular election cycle from March to November in general alignment with the federal election cycle, contingent on the passage of a separate ballot measure governing the duration of the council member terms, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to appoint poll workers, authorizing the assignment of polling place, and establishing an effective date. This has been a first and final reading of resolution number 2023-14 by title only. This contemplates a charter amendment, proposed charter amendment with the title Charter Amendment Number 4, conditionally aligning local election cycle with federal election cycle in November. The question being posed, if a majority of the city's electors approve an amendment extending council member terms to 4 years, that was number 3. Shall the city also amend the charter to provide that its regular local elections for council members shall be held in November in general alignment with federal election cycles, as opposed to the existing requirement that regular local elections occur in March? Yes, to amend the charter provision. No, to retain the existing charter provision. For clarity, for your purposes and for the public, should this be reviewed later, Charter Amendment number 4 can only pass if number 3 passes. If number 3 fails and 4 somehow passes, it will not become effective. That's why the language in the title is very specifically says conditionally. I know we've sort of referred to these as sort of housekeeping or administrative or technical. Ballot language and ballot titles are very critical when you're putting things to the electorate. A lot of care was put into making sure we're capturing what's being done here. So that's why it needs the way it is.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for explaining that. Let's go to the citizens for comments. All right, citizen comments are closed. Going to need a motion to approve resolution 2023-14.
So moved.
Motion made by Leslie Notaro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Ms. Notaro, you have the floor.
Nothing to add.
Any other comments? No? All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
Nay.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Resolution 2023-14 passes 5-1. All right, now we are on to item number 25. This is consideration of resolution 2023-17. Mr. Mora, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Resolution 2023-17, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, calling for a general election to be held on March 19, 2024, for the purpose of electing 3 city council members for a full term of office and a 4th seat for the remaining tenure of a recently vacated council member position, to establish the qualifying date and process for persons seeking elective office for the 2024 municipal election, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the supervisor of elections, establishing the polling place for the March 2024 election, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Election to verify candidate petition cards and facilitate the election process, and establishing an effective date. This has been a first and final reading of Resolution 2023-17 by title only. Council, you saw a version of this resolution almost identical last month, and it was approved. This resolution is intended to supersede that one, because during the adoption process, it occurred to me that there wasn't clarity on what would happen because there are 4 vacancies, and one of them is for less time than the other 3. And there was not clarity on what would happen if you had less than 5 people run. And so what this resolution does is specifically address that situation. The way it addresses it is, first, it retains the language from the previous, this is all set forth in section 4 of the resolution on pages 2 and 3 of 4 for this, or page 93 and 94 of the PDF materials. But what it says is, in the event of an election where 5 or more people qualify, the top 3 people get the full term, 4th place gets the shortened term, and this is for the remainder of Mr. Zabel's seat. Member Livingstone, you may recall, filled Member Gunn's seat, so that term is already up. That's not an issue in this election. This is for the seat vacated by Mr. Zabel and now occupied by Mr. Chester. And so that's how that will work. 4th place gets the short term. If 4 people qualify, I tried to harmonize the guidance given by this council and provide that when they qualify, they have the opportunity to volunteer to fill the shortened term. The first person to do so will get the shortened term. And that's how that will work. Absent a volunteer, if they all say, listen, I'm applying and I just want to get in and I don't want to sign up for the short term. The way this will work is that, pursuant to your charter and general election principles, each member will have been deemed to have voted for themselves, resulting in a 4-way tie. Your charter contemplates any tie will be resolved by drawing of lots, and so we will have a drawing of lots to determine who would get the shortened term of those 4 qualifying members. I looked at it a few ways, but this is the way that I think is most consistent with the language in your charter and otherwise, absent a direct volunteer saying, I do want to be that one. And then finally, if there are 3 or fewer people who qualify, those people will have been deemed to vote for themselves. They will fill the full terms. Any remaining vacancies, let's say 1 person runs or 3 people run, any remaining vacancies will be filled in the manner that you already fill vacancies, which would be by this commission after the election. So once those 2 people, let's say 3 people qualify and that 4th seat remains empty, once those 3 people are sworn in, this council will then seek applicants to fill that position and fill whatever vacancies remain. So it's the whole choose your own adventure of it is set out here so that there's no confusion for the public and for this council on how the seats will be filled going forward. It just says, candidly, an oversight as I wrote it, and something that I think, especially given where your community is right now, that warrants detail.
Mr. Mora, thank you for explaining that to us. Let's go to the council for comments. I'm sorry, let's go to the citizens for comments. Nope. We already did a motion, didn't we? We've done so many of these. I've lost my
No, I don't believe there's been a motion. I read it, and I was straight into executive session.
I got caught up in the moment thinking, how many nights you kept me from being awake? Because you were up all night figuring this out. All right, so we went to the citizens for comments. No one wanted to speak, so the citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve Resolution 2023-17.
Moved.
Motion made by Lloyd Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Mark? Oh, Frank.
Frank.
All right. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Yes, I think Mr. Moore did a phenomenal job of explaining that, and it sounds to me like all bases and combinations and permutations are covered. I think it's great.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any other comments? No? All right. Again, I would like to thank you for
Sorry, just trying to make the meeting go smoothly.
You know, I was about to sing your praises, but never mind. All right, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert,
Yes.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye, so resolution 2023-17 passes unanimously. All right, now we are on to item number 26. This is for consideration of resolution 2023-16. City Attorney Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Resolution 2023-16, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for an increase in solid waste collection and disposal rates and establishing an effective date. It's been the first and final reading of Resolution 2023-16 by title only, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Let's go to the citizens for comments. All right, the floor is closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve resolution 2023-16. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is that you?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Roberts, do I have a second?
Yes, I second.
Second by Mark Chester. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think, we've obviously discussed this, we put it out to bid, we put the monies in our budget, so I think this is the next step to make that happen. By the way, they've, Waste Pro, I think, has already done a pretty nice job out there. I thought one of the things, which seems like a minor change, but I appreciate it, when they come down my street, they come down my street one time, which also helps to protect the asphalt roads because the garbage trucks are one of the heavier pieces of equipment that drives down roads and can mess with the asphalt over time. The previous group, which did a great job, they came down one side, went down and turned around somewhere and came back the other side. The current group is coming down one time and crossing the street with garbage, which makes a lot of sense to me.
In my neighborhood, they have to do
That's just one time or two times?
that. They have to do that twice. Because they have to turn around.
Oh, anyway.
Waste Management used to do that too when they first started.
Do which one?
Waste Management used to come down and collect it on both sides of the street, and then they found out it was easier to do one side and then flip around the other side.
Okay. It's just less tearing up of the roads. If we can reduce that, so effectively it's cut it in half on my street, so just a good thing.
Okay, well, they took my garbage off today for the first time, and hey, whenever I pulled the can in, it was empty, so it looks like they got it right.
That's good.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Oh, boy, your wife must take the trash out, because the best thing is that the recycling has wheels, instead of having it towed out. Recycling
Right.
now has wheels.
Yeah,
That's the best thing.
Does everyone like that big container? Unless like, I think you're a habitual alcoholic and throwing bottles. I mean, who's filling up a container that size in one of these?
That's a little judgy, isn't it?
You know, occasionally we would run into overflow with our existing one. And then right before this happens, our 19-year-old son moves out. And now we put nothing in there. So,
I fill up my container, but I don't take it out of the recycling. That big container takes up space in the garage.
Councilmember Notaro, you had a comment?
Yes, I noticed that the first whereas clause makes reference to the waste management contract. Nowhere in here does it reference waste pro.
I believe that was amended in the final form that was in the packet that went out. That was caught earlier today and amended. We are aware of that and have amended it. It's not the materials you have that were circulated on Friday. It's caught and addressed today. Thank you for that.
Nice catch. Any other comments? All right, since we're, I think on this one, we're still going to call roll. Patty?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Chester?
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro?
Yes,
Councilmember Roberts?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley?
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis?
Aye. So resolution 2023-16 passes unanimously. Now we are on to item number 27. And believe it or not, it's not a resolution. This is for consideration of the first addendum to employment agreement for the services of Kyle Riefler as city manager of the city of Bel Air Beach. This was placed on the agenda by City Attorney Moore. Mr. Moore?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During a recent workshop, I believe it was the September meeting, there was some discussion about Manager Riefler's leave accrual and the way that it works based on his incredible devotion to this community and seeming inability to just take some time away. Absence does make the heart grow fonder. However, with that, he's accrued more time than the personnel manual contemplates that he should be able to do. And this is directly a function of him being a past employee before becoming city manager and the accrual that we've made provision for in his contract when he was hired. And so after listening to your discussion, and this is again for your consideration, you don't have to accept this. If this isn't a proposal you like, I tried to take your language or your discussion and turn it into something you can act upon. So what I've proposed here for your consideration is an amendment to his agreement. This is a two-page document found on pages 98 and 99 of the PDF if you're working digitally. And at the bottom of the first page, it's adding language to his employment agreement governing leave that says, notwithstanding any provision in the city's personnel policies to the contrary, the manager may, at any time between November and December of each year, surrender and receive the full cash value of any leave time accrued in excess of the 40 days he is otherwise permitted to accumulate. And this was, the way this proposal would work is as it states, in November, December, he could cash out if he's over budget in terms of his leave. I've written it this way to balance the equities of him not being deprived of the value of the benefit that he's accrued, while also preserving, as this council made very clear, the desire to encourage him to use that time. And so it's not, you can't use your leave time. Some places people use their leave time as a piggy bank at the end of the year and say, okay, I'm going to sell off 25 hours or 40 hours this year because I need that money or for whatever reason. This encourages him, this allows him to only cash out any excess, and then he's left back at 40, and then again, it holds the policy that he used the time that's accrued up to his limit. The other part of this that you avoid is, and I've seen this in other communities where you fail to address this, is when an employee leaves, say, oh my gosh, I had 85 hours, nobody was really tracking it except me, because I'm the chief administrator, I need to be paid out on this, and then we take some larger financial hit at a later date that we weren't anticipating. So that's why this is structured this way. It's a proposal, of course. I've discussed this with Mr. Riefler. It's mine, though he can speak for himself, it's my understanding he's amenable to this, otherwise I doubt it would have found its way into the materials. But with that in mind, that's the proposal for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Would any citizens like to comment on this topic? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Do I have a motion to approve this addendum?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Shirley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Vice Mayor Shirley, you have the floor.
I think this memorializes what we talked about in that work session, and again, to Kyle, I encourage you to take time off. There's nothing more important than spending time with your family and getting some R&R, so Although I'm in support of this policy, I still think we need to take a vacation.
I second that. Any other comments?
Are you happy with this, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, I approve it.
Anyone else? Mr. Roberts?
So just a snapshot, where are you now with respect to days?
I'm at about 46.
46 days?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the anniversary of being official, I'll get another 15. That'll put me at 16.
Is that before this year ends or before?
His
Right now.
his anniversary date's in November, I believe it actually says, November, yeah,
Right.
November
That's good.
2023.
I have vacation planned, December 29th through January 7th.
All right. You're right, it's not very long, but he's got to come back. Any other comments? Nope. All right. Can we do this with just a voice vote?
That's fine.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the addendum passes. Use some of that extra money while you're on vacation. Okay, so now we are up to item number 28. This is to authorize the city manager to begin negotiations with the candidate for the city clerk position. City Manager Rico.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for some background, City Clerk Gentry made an announcement of her retirement date. We agreed to advertise the opening, and we got that out on our website and message board on October 4th. And City Clerk Gentry also emailed the vacant position to the Pinellas County Municipal Clerks Association and the Florida Association for City Clerks, so that it was posted on their websites as well. And during that open period, we received 4 applications, and I went through the 4 applications which I included as part of this, as an attachment to this item. And I reviewed the education, the employment history, specifically city clerk experience, but also experience with municipal government, and just the time in positions held in their employment history. And I found that one candidate stood out above the others. That is Ms. Sharon Renee Rose. I set up a Zoom interview. She currently lives in the state of Kansas. So we interviewed her via Zoom and talked for just under an hour. And the city clerk Gentry was also part of that interview. We were both very impressed with how she answered her interview questions. And at that point, I'd like to, that's what I got on the agenda, to recommend it to City Council for you to meet her. She's here tonight. I'd like to say that I reached out to her the following week and asked if it was possible for her to attend this meeting, and with the understanding that it's coming up quickly and we'd understand if she couldn't, and she got back within 2 hours and it all worked out. So she's here tonight. Ms. Rose, please come to the podium. And I'd like you to meet her.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I'm just here to introduce myself. I have 18 years of municipal experience, with the last 5 being the city clerk's position in the city of Gardner. During that time that I've worked with the city of Gardner, we have grown exponentially. I believe when I first started my position in Public Works, we had around 10,000 citizens. We are now approaching 25,000 and will become a city of the first class in the next year. Through that time, I've worked with the finance department. I worked there for 2 years, and then I was promoted up to the city clerk position, like I said, about 5 years ago.
Council, would you like to ask any questions?
Yes. Hi, thank you first of all for making the trip down here. We really, really appreciate that. So what would you prefer we call you during this process?
I go by Renee.
Renee, okay,
Yes.
perfect. Right, Renee, so looking over your application and your resume and your experience, it's impeccable, it's right on target for what we're looking for. So what would you say that you like most about living in Kansas?
I've lived there all of my life. I can tell you one thing I dislike are the Midwest winters. So
Midwestern what?
Midwest winters.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of the Midwest winters. My fiance and I have spoken for many years about trying to move further south, wanting to live near water, wanting to live near a beach. He actually came down earlier this summer. I think he took his job in March, and so now it's time for me to come join him.
Excellent. So have you spent much time in Florida or in any beach areas around the state?
We've actually come over to the Tampa area quite a bit and enjoy the communities and enjoy the atmosphere that you have here.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm just looking at your application, you have listed a residence in Summerfield, which is the Ocala area.
Yes.
Is that where your fiance lives and you're planning to move there? Is that?
He actually lives there currently, but he's planning to move here.
Okay, so your intent would be to live in Pinellas County somewhere?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And I agree with what Lori said. It's nice to see you're well-rounded. You have a little bit, because we're a really small city and we don't have a lot of staff. So I know you're being hired as a clerk, but I think your knowledge could be helpful to some of the other departments and that sort of thing. So I appreciate you taking the time to come in with us.
Absolutely.
Mr. Baker?
I think you're going to get hired. Welcome aboard.
I appreciate you coming. It's
Absolutely.
wonderful. And I've driven through Kansas, but it's never been a destination for me, but welcome to Florida.
Thank you.
Ms. Matero?
Have you read through your resume? And I'm very impressed. I think you'd be a wonderful addition to the city of Bel Air Beach.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to it.
I read through your application and your resume, and it's definitely impressive. You've got a lot of experience with municipal government, local government. I will add that just out of fairness, that I'm going to bring in another person and let them speak also, because there was another candidate who did apply and is here tonight. But at this point, I'm leaning in your direction based upon the feedback that I've received from Patty Gentry and from City Manager Weaver. Mr. Roberts?
So when would you be available to start?
I would probably be looking at a month. I would like to give my current employer, as I am a member of leadership at my current city, I would like to give them at least 3 weeks' notice and then another week to relocate to Florida.
Perfect. So finally, could you rank in order of quality how you think the council members did tonight?
I didn't touch that one.
I'm not touching that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Astra, would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Yes.
And
Hi, my name's Astra Packold, and I've been coming here all my life, and I was here when they first started the walls and all the land was empty. So I've seen big changes that have occurred. I'm a dentist, and I practiced for over 20 years, and also an insurance agent for many companies, and I'm on the DETCO site. So, but I haven't done any work on any committees like she has, but I'd be willing to start right away. And I live a couple of streets down, and I'm very interested in this Bel Air Beach, obviously, all my life. And I've seen it grow, and with all the roads that were Leary. It's really an incredible change, and I'd be very happy to take on the job. I know how to run a practice, and I also consult my sister's medical practice on an on-call basis in California at the moment. So, like I said, I'd be able to start right away, and I'd be interested in what you think.
Thank you very much, Ms. Packel. Do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Packel?
Do we have any information from her? I know she researched.
Her resume is in the
Okay. I see it right there, perfect.
Council members, if we could avoid any sidebar comments, please.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Ms. Packard. So you're a dentist by
Yes.
trade. Why are you not, did you just close your practice or sell it, or why are you not practicing?
Well, my mother, she took ill, and I had to sell my dental practice, and I was involved in some court trials for many years. And I won all my court trials in Illinois, and they said that I'd have to work for like VA veterans if I wanted to get a job working here in Florida. They don't have any positions open. And otherwise work underneath another dentist to change my license down here to Florida. And other than that, like I said, I consult my sister's medical practice as a dentist on an on-call basis. And I sell insurance, even on the gov sites, so health, life, long-term care, fixed annuities, Medicare supplements. It's a lot of CE, so I'm very familiar with the laws that govern different structures and people who need financial help. And I think I'd be very good. I was also looking at other positions, like maybe like a, that are close by. And this is just down the street. It's so perfect. I can't even imagine other than working a little bit over the bridge.
So your goal is to be close to home, is that what
Right, and I live here permanently now. So it's been very nice to try to cross the street from the mayor.
Well, nice to meet you.
Yes, very nice to meet you. And if there are any other questions, I'd be,
You're my neighbor as well.
yes.
So would you consider just doing this, or would you keep on selling insurance as well? What would?
Well, I'm on the DACGov site. I'd be probably selling it on the weekends, maybe. Because this is a big job, and Patty's been doing a real lot of work. So I'd be willing to probably not do that, maybe at all. And I definitely, my sister wants to retire in her medical practice, so this would be a permanent job for him.
Mr. Becker, do you have any questions?
I just, as Mr. Chester said, Patty's like Patty's overworked underpaid, she's like a 24/7.
Right.
Is there more hours than 24 that Kyle gets in? I don't know. I don't think you'd have any free time.
Right, there wouldn't be any free time to do anything else.
Do you know Unicode too, or?
Pardon me?
Do you know the Unicode of the city, the ordinances, how to load it and how to interpret it?
No, I have to talk to Patty on how to do it, but I'm very good at the computer. I'm on it all day usually. And I'm also a freelance writer, so. I was also thinking of a paralegal job, but that's over 10 hours a day, like Mr. Moore knows.
Ms. Montero, do you have any questions?
Well, I like Bella Beach, and I love the people here, and I think it would be a good fit. We'll see what you say.
Thank you, Ms. Packel. It's very nice to meet you. And I know
Thank you.
that I know you already, and Councilmember Chester knows, but since you were here, you could at least introduce
Yes,
yourself.
thank you very much.
Give us your history. Thank you. Okay, now that we've met Ms. Rose. We've also met Ms. Packle. Ms. Rose was the candidate that was recommended by City Manager Rieflin. Mr. Rieflin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to reiterate that I was highly impressed with her experience in government, the fact that she was working for the city in Kansas for 19 years and progressed from public works administration up to finance and then into a deputy clerk position and then 4 years as a city clerk. In talking to her, she's very educated, has a lot of background. I think she could bring a lot of her experience into this city and it would be a benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Rieflin. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to speak? Citizen comments are now closed. Before we go any further, I'm going to need a motion to authorize the city manager to begin negotiations with Renee Rose. I'm sorry, I'll just hold that for 1 second. You are not obligated to vote yes. You can vote no, and if there's a majority of no, then the city manager will have to dig deeper. I just wanted to make that clear. So the motion is made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Mr. Banker, do you have the floor?
I think we've seen both candidates. It's pretty clear the selection. I think we should go to a vote.
Calling the question?
Yeah.
All right. So this is to authorize the city manager to begin negotiations with Renee Rose. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you both very much for applying, as well as the other two candidates. Ms. Rose, I look forward to working with you if it works out. And Ms. Packle, thank you so much for coming tonight and introducing yourself to the council.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for clarity in the record, you have authorized the manager to enter into negotiations with the candidate. At a later date would be the formal appointment, establishing the date of service, salary, etc. So we will appoint at a subsequent meeting. But thank you for your authorization so we can move forward with the negotiation process.
Mr. Mayor, question. Since she'll take at least a month from the time, I guess, she accepts your contract, who's going to be filling in for Patty? She's leaving in a couple of weeks.
And Laura, and your new administrative assistant too, right?
Yes, so it'll be myself, Laura Metaluni, and Jennifer, and so Patty, before she leaves, is going to kind of lay everything out that we need to get through, and I'm confident that we can do it.
And you really think 3 or 4 of you can replace one?
I think we can stay
Anyway.
And with that in mind, we'll also move with all deliberate speed in the process of getting things.
That was my next question.
This is, if a special meeting is appropriate or necessary, we will schedule one if we can come to terms sooner than later. This is not something we'll just sit on until we can.
Since you brought that up, we don't need a special meeting if the two of them can come to terms, correct?
No,
The commission, the council needs to fill, it is a charter position, the council needs to fill it. You've authorized him to negotiate. I would strongly recommend a formal appointment of the position, not simply an authorization to negotiate. Much like when you say you authorize him to negotiate the RFP, but then ultimately bless the RFP, I think it would be similar to that.
The resolute or the question was to begin negotiations, not finalize negotiations. And the city attorney and I have already discussed a special meeting, possibility of a special meeting if we can come to terms.
The only reason I bring this up is because she wants 3 weeks notice to her employer plus a week to the mayor, which is agreeable. But is it going to be 2 more? Is it going to be 5 weeks that we're talking about? 6 weeks? You know what I'm saying? Until this process is hammered out, because I'm sure you're not going to get notice until you reach a settlement.
I think you're asking for an unknown variable right it's something that they're going to have to work out and make sure that everybody's on the same page, but I can assure you, as soon as we get the word, we will move as quickly as we can.
And as we talk procedure, with the understanding we may have loved ones or family in the area, there would not be a need for the candidate to return for the purpose of the appointment. We can do that in absentia, if you will. And that won't be a hurdle to the process. And I don't want you to worry, ma'am, about costs and otherwise. But as far as that process, again, we will move with all speed. I've been in communities where we were without a manager and a clerk at the same time. Trust and believe I do not wish to be there and put my team in that position.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. All right, we are moving.
And a quick question. How long do you plan on staying now before you head back to Kansas?
I actually have a plane out tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
Okay, so you have until then, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to item number 29. This is to authorize the city manager to put the stormwater project out for bid. Take it away, Mr. Reefer.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the combined stormwater project. Just to take it back, this is what we did a capital improvement revenue note for in April. We've been working with Gemini Engineering and Sciences, specifically with Larry Flutie, PE, and he's been designing the project to cover the areas of the remaining BMPs of our stormwater update that was done in 2016. And through some work sessions, we've come up with the bid documents, the technical specifications, and the finalized plan. And with city council approval, we'd like to advertise this project to go out to bid on November 8th, Wednesday. And I'm going to put that on the online bid system Demand Star, which I believe will be far-reaching as opposed to the way in the past where we stuck it in the newspaper and on the website. I believe we're going to get a lot more, just by the nature of how Demand Star works. It blasts it out, and any contractor that does these type of construction projects are going to be notified. So I'm confident that we should get some more bids than we're used to.
Thank you, Mr. Reefer. Now let's go to citizens for comments. Would like to speak? Yes. We have a citizen who wants to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Shaw Elliott. I live at 121 9th Street. I had the opportunity to talk to you guys some months ago when I was very pleased to support the bond issue for this storm improvement system. And at that time, I recommended that we take this as an opportunity to really study the needs here and to make sure that we're not rebuilding what we currently have, which may or may not be adequate, and that we can really plan for the future in terms of looking at all the climate changes that we're experiencing and being safe in future years. So since then, we've had a few opportunities for learning. We've been through our storm season. It's not quite finished, but we did have a hurricane, and from the vantage point of my evacuated safe place, I watched as water came up 9th Street, my street. We did have some damage. I luckily was fine, so that was good, but I'm certainly concerned about neighbors. And 8th Street is a street that had gone through the current improvements and did experience some damage to the properties there. I also watched as literally one of our former council members kayaked down his street. So we know we're in the face of some extreme weather ahead. So with this project, which is a wonderful project, I have some questions. And one is how does this differ from what we currently have, so that we're not just rebuilding something that we know isn't sufficient for current climate conditions? So how does this differ? The second question is, if so, then what are the improvements? What are we doing now under this plan that we don't currently have? And the last and most important one is, are those changes adequate? Are we properly providing for our futures? And thanks very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. We have another guest here who may be interested in coming up to the podium and maybe answering some of those questions.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for allowing me to be here. And I believe, the answers, the questions that she asked, we do address a lot of those questions. And the way we're developing this project is to make sure that we're not coming back in 5 years or 8 years, that we are building a sustainable project. And being from the use of the top of road material, the asphalt, the storm system, the curbs, and making sure that, what we put in is going to be in for a good lifetime. So that's how we look at each one of these. From the stormwater system, the existing culverts are there, and we make sure that they drain and they don't leak, and the water goes downhill, so we make sure that we got that and make it to work. I guess if anything else, you might have as far as the project, be glad to answer some questions.
When you came in for the work session, and I really appreciate your candor and everything like that, we talked about 9th Street, and you said you're going to add in another drain. And I said, what's that going to do when it fills up? So the other drain would carry maybe another 100 gallons of water, okay? And you admitted without, once the water comes above the outlet, okay, it's not going to drain. Right. So at the end of the day, we're going to be getting the same results in a heavy storm that we have now. And I know NWI Pumps contacted you. Yeah. And the only solution here is, and the prayer tonight was for wisdom. And I hate seeing our money being spent on something that's not going to work. Not one person on this council would surely have a contractor come in and have a problem in their house, and the contractor says, yes, I can repair this, but you're going to get the same results, okay? Not one person would spend their own money on this. I think you've done a marvelous job in everything you've done, but the only way to alleviate this water is to pump it out. And I've had council members saying, well, once it breaches the seawall, you're done, you're inundated with water. True, but not true, okay? That last storm, there was 2 to 3 feet of water in the streets at midnight. The water never breached the seawall until about 8 o'clock in the morning. Then it was too late. If we had pumps working in there, them streets would have been dry when that water breached the seawall. Meaning, you wouldn't have gotten water in your driveway, I wouldn't have gotten water in my driveway. All right? We need to put this plan, and I want to go forward with the plan. We need to put this plan at bay right now. NWI is coming in. I'm not saying they're the ones that are going to cause the solution here, but this is foolish money being spent at this time, because you're going to get the same results as you have right now at the end of the day.
Now, I agree, and I've looked over to MWI, and I'm familiar with those kind of pumps and have designed those down in South Florida. So I'm familiar with the materials and what they've done, and they're a good outfit, for sure. The type of, I think one of the others, underground vault, or maybe something underground that we've done. I looked at that and how to design that. And there's, the size of it and the volume to make sure that it would even work. We have a lot of utilities underneath the street. We've got force main, we've got water mains, and other type. So the underground utilities made a underground vault, other than digging up a road, very difficult. to try to fit in there and make that work. The pump idea, we've looked at, and I think in my discussions with MWI, with what they're doing, that's a feasible solution. You can place one of those in an area where we won't have utility conflicts, and then it would operate kind of like a sanitary sewer lift station. Is essentially what we're doing. And something like that can be placed in the area on 9th Street down at the low end and have it pump out north to the creek out to the bay. So that's something we've looked at. And I understand MWI is coming here, so I send them information on 9th Street. So be glad to work with them, or if they have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions they might have, to give them as much information that they would need to give what they would recommend.
You know, what I'm saying is City Hall is located right off of 9th Street. This could be the jewel or diamond of showing how we can get rid of flooding. Okay? And we have that opportunity, we have that money right now that we can spend and solve the problem. I'm not saying it's going to solve the problem under a Cat 5, okay?
Right.
But it would probably solve the problem up to a Cat 3.
Well, it'll solve the problem as far as when you have enough water coming in, it can't get out.
We had a high tide a few weeks ago, sir, and it was all over the driveways of 9th Street, 8th Street, 7th Street, all the way down up to 12th Street where it just repaired.
Right.
Because it just can't get out.
Yeah. No, that's it. It just can't get out. So pump is a solution that will work.
Mr. Roberts.
A quick question for you, and of course I could do the math, but approximately what percentage of our overall costs are actually being used for the road improvements and the gutters as compared to the dollars that are being spent to replace the limited linear feet of pipes on our project?
Well, I don't have the exact.
Would you say it's a significant majority?
Yes.
Okay, significant majority. And Frank, you keep referring to this as a waste of money. The majority of this project is for road improvements and gutter improvements. There are many, many, many roads out there that are in dire need of work. So the majority of this particular project is in fact the roads and gutters. We live on a barrier island. We've said this from the beginning, that we don't even need a storm, we just need big rains. Big rains and a high tide are going to result in flooding every time. Period.
Under the 70-year-old plan, you are absolutely correct, sir. But this is 2023, okay? The roads that you're talking about, why would you want to repave these roads when you possibly might have to dig them up to put in a system that will work correctly? And the roads,
All right, gentlemen, one at a time.
The roads right now that you're talking about that need replacing, they do have cracks in them, but they're heat cracks. It's from stress, okay? They're going to crack. You can go down 8th Street. There are cracks, and it just was repaved a few years ago, okay? You're talking about what's the binding you're going to be putting down, like 1 inch, 1.5 inches?
It's 1 inch to 1.5 inches.
So when you only put on 1 inch, it's going to crack. I mean, I don't care how much of a tack coat you put down underneath that, it's going to crack with the heat. So why don't we do this correctly? We're taking a big bond out. We have a storm surge tax we pay every month. Let's do it correctly.
So what is the definition of correct?
Get rid of the water, as he agreed. The pumps will get rid of the water.
Mr. Riefler.
You shake your head, okay, because you don't have a flooding problem.
Hold on. Mr. Riefler, I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
I'd like to bring up that we are installing a 24-inch one-way valve on the swale system at Bayside Park. So that is going to be a change that's going to affect Miss Elliott's street. It won't prevent everything because eventually, if you hold the water back, it'll go right over the crown of the road and eventually make it to 9th Street. That did contribute because as the water rose up it went right through that 24-inch pipe into the drainage retention area. And then as that filled, it went to that backyard property that's to the south of it and kind of made its way around. So that is one change, and it's a economically feasible change. My concern with the pump system, I like the idea, and I think that you could take it to a whole new level, but I believe that the cost that we're going to look at to put these pump systems in place is going to be considerably more than our average stormwater project we do in Bel Air Beach. And I think our stormwater project that we are doing is significant because it is reinforcing and refurbishing our existing system, as well as reshaping the curbs. We have a lot of issues throughout the city where we have water holding in the curbs. A lot of residents do not like that. And there's a lot of streets that are in terrible condition. So we are taking care of issues in Bel Air Beach. I would really like to try the idea of pumping out the water. I think it could solve, especially in certain areas, yours being the extreme ones in the city. But at this point, I don't believe that when we did the bond issue, we set aside and did estimations on that type of system. I think that would be something that we'd look at in the future to solve this problem. And I would like to entertain MWI pumps to see what they have, so we can kind of get a understanding of what kind of costs we'd be looking at.
Mr. Reefer, whether you added pumps or not, would you still require the same infrastructure to successfully drain water throughout our city?
Yes, our existing infrastructure, I think it's a good design that works most days of the year, but as our tidal water does come up and we get heavy rains, it doesn't always work. Water has nowhere to go. I think when we went through and added the check valve systems, they work to an extent, and I think that's a very important problem we did solve is, staying on top of them, maintaining them, because when that water was coming up when you have a sunny day, there's no real reason we should have that.
That last event we had where everything was underwater for a little while, that was high tide and a rain event, is that correct?
Yeah, it was an increased high tide. We actually got a weather notification that it was going to be a foot higher than normal, and then we got all the rain.
Okay, so if you don't have pumps, if pumps are the only thing that you could change beyond this project, then it's something we would look into. But under no circumstances, once a check valve closes and you have an extreme rain event, are you not going to get flooded? Is that correct?
Well, if you don't have a pump.
If you don't have a pump.
You're going to have a
Okay, so even if Frank got his way and got pumps in, we would still be doing this infrastructure project exactly as described. Is that correct?
Yes, because I don't think the design of this project is any kind of spending money where we don't need to take care of issues with the existing infrastructure. And like I said, we need to redo the curbing and the pavement as well. All these areas are due per the index that we've been using over the last 4 years now.
And you feel that the extra valve, it's an extra valve you're putting in?
It'd be an additional valve.
Okay, and where is that valve located again?
It's going to go on the swale at Bayside Park, which is, I believe, just north of Niagara Harbor.
Mr. Banker, you have the floor.
Well,
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, everybody else.
I just want to say, Mr. Flutie, thank you for all your hard work. Don't forget to leave your hired. This firm is because we need an engineer to figure this out. None of us up here are engineers. His firm has, I know Mr. Flutie has done nothing but storm management design for years. I've known him for many years and does a great job. We have a 55 to 60-year-old system that has never been repaired. Never before has the city put money into infrastructure. So we're making up for those shortfalls for all these many years that we've done no work to infrastructure. I commend you for everything you've done. You guys are doing a great job. I think pumping water from the street into a swell and moving it from one place to the other is still going to flow to the low end. Doesn't matter, that water flows downhill, no matter where you're at. We can't change the elevations of these older homes unless they're knocked down. There's no way we have to manage expectations, and that's one thing I think where we're maybe falling short. We're not conveying to residents, we're not going to fix the problem. We're trying to alleviate some of the issues, but by no means this deferred maintenance does not fix the problem. It helps some of it, but we're going to continue to have some flooding issues. We live on a barrier island. When tides are high, we're going to have issues. There's no way we can fix that unless we scrape the whole town and start over. That's the only way we can fix it. And so, you know, I commend everything you guys have done. This is great. I'm so thankful that we're moving forward with all of this, and I am in total support of your designs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Shirley, and well spoken. Ms. Notaro, you can also anything that you like to add to this.
I agree with what Vice Mayor has said. We can't stop the rain. There's some things we just can't control. And this alleviates a lot of the problems.
Thank you. Mark Chester.
I agree. We need to do everything we can. It's reasonable, but when we moved here, we realized what we're moving into. And when we purchased the home that we did, we made sure we got something that was as high as we can, within the parameters of what we have. Plus, I like having a nice, smooth street that, and that the water runs out better. We also discussed, I think it's a good idea to get to people to where we're not blocking the drains by putting things out that, we're doing that to ourselves. So there's often times where, we had it with construction on our street where, because there's so much debris that the construction brings, that it inhibits the ability for, water to drain like it should. But I don't think one is exclusive of the other. I like the idea of moving forward and getting something done.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. I would like to thank you, sir, also for being very patient with this council. I know it probably takes a lot out of you every time you come here, but I appreciate your perseverance and hanging in there with us, and I think we're almost done with this.
I just want to add.
Wait, Mr. Baker, I'm going to give you the last one. Go right ahead.
Well, earlier, one of the council members said that because we're smarter doing it 65 years the same way with the technology we have today, that doesn't seem too smart to me. I come from the heavy highway, infrastructure business, stormwater, all right? This is ridiculous what we're doing, all right? True, okay, streets need to be repaved, okay, but you have technology in front of you. You shouldn't go forward until you have the other company come in and explain what they can do. Now, as he said, you can put a catch basin in or a vault, all right? They're very hard to put in places. I agree with you with underground wiring and everything like that. 9th Street, the park, you could put an underground vault in there, all right, easily, all right? And that would really reduce flooding in a bunch of areas, all right? But this council who says they're smarter, I think will vote to go ahead with something that will not work. And you agreed with me, sir, without getting the pumps to move the water, heavy rain, storm surge, we're going to have the same effect. So I don't know how we're smarter than the other communities.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I'm going to close yields the floor.
I'm sorry, just take 10 seconds. Just to clear the record, my feelings are hurt from Vice Mayor saying there's no engineers. I am a professional engineer in the state of Florida and a Class A certified contractor. So just one that.
Well, now I have to give Frank the last word. In stormwater management,
Yeah, civil engineering, which does involve stormwater.
Did you do still?
And I worked for Swift Mud for 20 years as well.
what stormwater management did you do with pumps or
Oh, so it's
can you give me one? So I don't,
together for the whole, all of our sites that Swift Mud owns.
just give me
All right,
one.
gentlemen, all right, gentlemen, that's enough.
Asking for one.
All right, so I think what we're going to do, just for the record, we're going to take this to a roll call vote. If everyone's ready, we shall begin. Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard,
No.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So, Ms. Reefer, you are authorized to proceed. It was 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, and 30 is already complete, so now we are on item number 31. Sir, I appreciate it. This is for consideration of approval of a piggyback agreement with Calvin Giordano Associates for land development code revision. This was put on the agenda by City Manager Reefer.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is an agreement we discovered as we talked about in the budget planning process. We'd like to do a code review, primarily the land development code, sections of our code, with some other sections incorporated as well. So in that process, before when we were planning the budget, I reached out to some firms to get an idea of kind of the costs we would be looking at to do such a venture. And we budgeted the amount of $30,000 for code review in our contractual services of our operating budget. And so in the process of trying to find an agreement, an existing agreement that we could piggyback, I was working with City Attorney Eschenfelder, Randy's, City Attorney Moore's colleague, and he pointed out that Town of Reddington Shores did a very similar project, and they went out to an RFQ and produced Mr. Cerna, who's a planning director, with Calvin Giordano and Associates, and they're out of Clearwater. So when I looked at the agreement that Town of Reddington Shores had in place, I noticed that he has a lot of experience in this area. He's local, and the nice part about it is he has a very good per hourly rate. After discussion with Attorney Eschenfelder, we reached out to Mr. Cerna, and he got the approval from his executives to piggyback that contract for our project. So we'd be working at the $156 per hour rate. I worked through the agreement and the existing project scope that Town of Reddington Shores had, and set it up for our purposes. And I included that here. My intention is, if we approve this piggybacking contract, to authorize, to give a work authorization to Mr. Cerna with this project scope. And I've already passed this for review, and he's agreed that this is a well put together scope, and it includes, if you read through it, it includes the tasks of reaching out to the community, finding out, getting input as far as the parts of our code that need to be reviewed, need to be updated. I've already put together my own list. I based the scope and the sections of code a lot to do with what I've seen in the past year, just by reviewing the code and variance process and all that. And then he's going to provide a first deliverable where he he's going to review all the sections of code, and he's going to give an analysis and write recommendations of how to change the code and why. Then prepare a draft strike-through, which we would present to the Planning and Zoning Board, which would be the Land Development Board, first, where they would give their input at that point, come out with a recommendation to come to City Council, where we would provide, where he would develop the ordinances that would be necessary for changing the code. In this process, mind you, with the Senate Bill 250, which we cannot increase, make code more restrictive until October 1, 2024. So the timeline being, we take care of all this discussion and drafting of the ordinances, which he's also included the now necessary economic impact studies that have to go along with it. But we get this all reviewed in place to bring these ordinances to meeting once we get to the deadline for the Senate vote. So that's kind of the gist of the whole plan. And again, this contract, or piggybacking this contract and using this scope at the quoted hourly cost, not to exceed $23,140 based on the hours he feels would be necessary to accomplish our project. And I just want to point out that's under our budget because we did put funding in our general budget for $30,000. So I think we're looking to stay under it with a very qualified firm. He also included his resume and all his work experience. So feel confident about this.
Thank you, Mr. Riefler. I don't think we have any citizens to comment, but anyway, would anyone like to comment on this topic? Mr. Laura, would you like to give any feedback on this topic?
Just to add, as Manager Riefler alluded to, my colleague, Rob Eschenfelder, who worked with Mr. Cernan in the community and is also very familiar with the procurement process, has reviewed this. As far as a code rewrite, I do want to be clear. One, that we offer to do a version of this, but what you're looking at here are your land development regulations. And while I can provide you proposed land development regulations that are legal, that's very different than looking at them from a planner's perspective and harmonizing those with the planner's vision and the community's vision. That's not always a lawyer's strong suit in that regard of capturing vision and mission versus, yes, you can do this. So, of course, I will be reviewing and working with Mr. Cernan and Manager Riefler as we navigate this process. As Manager Riefler alluded to with Senate Bill 250 and its limitation on adopting anything that is more burdensome or restrictive, there may be some that are placed in the hopper for adoption at a later date, or we determine, do we need to make it this way to accomplish the community's end? So that's my commentary, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. We need to go to the council for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the piggyback agreement? That motion was made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Shirley. Mr. Banker, you have the floor.
I think Mr. Riefler and Mr. Moore has explained it pretty well.
Other comments or questions from the council?
I would just like to comment that this is something that's much needed. We've always gone to citizens for review of code, and as a result, we have a lot of issues with our code that loopholes that probably need to be closed up, and maybe some things that don't meet what we're trying to achieve, and with as it relates to code and building code, that sort of thing. Clearly, we're not doing a whole lot to change the land use, but we're getting a professional involved to help us with the process of cleaning up code.
Other questions or comments from the council?
Mayor,
Yes, Yes, sir.
I just want to point out, there are some sections of code that have come up to the Board of Adjustment, variance after variance, having to do with pool elevation, things like that, that would actually be less restrictive, but would take care of something that we keep on granting variances for, so some things we could take care of sooner or later.
Now, obviously, we're in a moratorium right now to where we cannot make anything more restrictive. But already some things have cropped up that we want to visit. So, are you going to make sure that these items are brought up and they're, so we have instructions for the future once the moratorium is lifted? Because obviously, we're going to be cleaning up code like crazy for a little while, but eventually it'll settle down and then the moratorium will be lifted. We're going to want to go back. But I don't want to feel like we've wasted our money and now we don't know what we're doing. What's the plan for handling it?
So, I mean, the plan for that is just kind of with the scope description of the project. It's going to be, as we move through the process, especially first and foremost, I mean, I have my list. I know what areas that have been an issue for the city in some areas that people are not actually following through because they're just, they need to be changed or adjusted so that they can be enforced. But I think most important, it's the very start of it is conducting, it says conduct a workshop with the planning and zoning board and or city council to introduce project take input. I think I would like to do like a forum to the whole community so that it is public, but also we hear from every source possible, just to see if there's anything we are missing that we can look at. And then moving forward from that, you know, that's where the professional, the planner comes in, and he looks at these problems and he comes up with, by his experience with other communities, what he thinks would work best for us. And then gives recommendations that we discuss and work through. But I don't think any of this would be lost because we'd be going through the process and we would have you know, these documents and deliverables that we would keep with the plan to create ordinances.
Other questions or comments from the council? All right, well, in that case, this is kind of a big deal, so I'm going to do a roll call vote on this one because it's always serious stuff whenever we're dealing with our municipal code. So, Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert,
Yes.
Councilmember Chester,
Yes.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So the motion carries unanimously, and Mr. Reed, whether you are authorized to proceed.
Thank you.
All right. We are up to item 32. Where's Mike Zabel when you need him? All right, this is for consideration of marina slip waitlist policy and marina license and use agreement. City manager, please take it away.
Okay, so these are two documents. The main document is the one we've been discussing over several work sessions. I believe it's coming up on a year, if not more. But it is to revise which is admin policy number 12, which is this marina slip waiting list policy. You know, it was put into place back, originally issued or the existing version was issued in 2010, and sort of a lot of things have changed in the city since the original waitlist policy was put in place, and it's been brought to our attention from residents that are on that waiting list that we should look at changing how it works to better serve the residents of the community. We've done a lot of analysis, and different members of council have taken it and come up with some ideas, and looked at other examples, and we're at the point now where I think we've kind of looked at everything, considered what we want the marina to be and what our goal we're trying to get to is, and we came up with a policy that will get us to our goal and provide a more fair process to the residents so that if they get on the list, they feel like they can eventually get their boat in the marina. And then along with this document is the agreement, the licensing agreement for an actual slip. And our city attorney, Maura, went through it with legal review, changed some wording, added some wording. And the main thing I wanted to change in this was the section 3E, which was the late payment charge, because the old version was set at a late payment charge of $15 per month. And I thought that was extremely low, given what the average slip cost is per month. I worked with the attorney and we agreed that $100 per month is more realistic to try to motivate somebody to not be late with their payment. So that's really the only major change of that document. So again, this is to approve the waiting list policy. I think I did issue it before the work session. You mentioned between that work session and now, if there are any comments, I haven't heard any additional comments, but I would like to finalize a policy and then work to put it into effect. And we have an existing list. We know all the timeline of when each resident got on that list. So I think the most fair way to institute this new policy would be to reach out to the person who's been on the list, who's a resident, based on all the ranking we define in our policy, and then go one by one and let them choose which list they want to be on, and then establish a new list. And then moving forward from there, so website, forms, all to be constructed for this new policy. One other thing, this policy clearly defines that nobody in the same nuclear family or household can have more than one slip. And we do have one name that came up where there is was once a resident and no longer a resident, but she has 2 slip agreements in her name. So by our new policy, she would have to relinquish one of those slips to be following the policy. It was brought to our attention that we were looking at this, instituting this policy, and she reached out to me and went over the history of how she got those 2 slips. Long story short, she got her first slip in 2002, it was slip 10. In 2008, another slip was open. It was not, I guess she was told that if she put the slip in her name, that it would allow her to have a cheaper rate, but since 2008, which is slip 17, it was always for another resident, well, not a resident, but a boat owner at the time, Mr. Alaka, who still has a boat in that slip. It's just from that time period on, her name has been on both slips. It's caused issues for the city because when people get the records, they see that somebody in the city has their name on 2 slips, and why do they have 2 slips? But she is adamant in telling me that the only reason that it was in her name is because she had a resident, established residency, and that it got a cheaper rate at the time. Since then, we've raised the fees. When we did the resolution, both these slip renters pay their non-resident fee today. She insists that they do not share a household and they are not family in any way. She is respectfully requested that it be considered by council in this one circumstance to let Mr. Belanca sign an agreement for his sub-17 under his name, continue the use with the boat he has in it. And again, they both have taken these subs and installed their own lifts. So they've invested in using Blue Marina for quite some time, or over 20 years and over 15. So I would request council consideration to, in this one circumstance, put Mr. Belanca's name on the agreement for sub-17 with Ms. Zimmerman remaining on sub-15.
TMI.
Exactly.
Let's go to the citizens for comments before we keep this conversation. Would anyone like to speak? All right. Citizen comments are now closed. We need a motion to approve the updated marine slip weight list policy.
Motion.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Shirley. Mr. Banker, do you have the floor?
Mr. Reaver well explained it. That's all I have to say.
All right, and I'll explain my comment, is that that's another issue entirely. Right now, we need to get this motion out of the way for this updated marina slip weight list policy, and then we'll see what happens after. Any comments? Mr. Roberts?
None.
Mr. Chester?
Do we have anybody that's habitually late on?
We've had somebody like that, and when I looked at the policy or the agreement, I was like, well, I wouldn't have hate to pay either.
Right.
He since caught back up because we do reserve the right to cancel and terminate their lease. So we did get it back, but I still think it would be better to have something that someone would not want to pay.
Oh, I agree. I think I'm for going up exponentially. Absolutely. Especially by wait list.
Other comments?
I'm okay with the wait list. I would love to not have to address the marina again. We keep rehashing this. Going through the licensing agreement, and maybe I'm overlooking it, but we don't require the boat owners to have insurance or anything.
It's on the floor.
Okay, it just doesn't, I guess I didn't see it spelled out in here.
Yeah, we keep track of the expiration date on the current policy. It also helps us make sure that the same vessels that we go through. I created an Excel spreadsheet that goes red when they're coming up on their expiration and we get a new copy. A lot of them set it up so that the insurance will be automatic.
Yeah, I noticed. Does that have pollution coverage on it too? Do we know? I mean, I'm just kind of curious, when we're looking at it just.
I've never seen anything call out.
Because we don't have anything on I'm not seeing it in our agreement, what our limits are, what our requirements are. They indemnify the city, not that I know a whole lot about insurance, but I'm just saying, I don't know, Attorney Moore, have you looked at this and with regards to that? Those are my only comments, is making sure we have proper insurance in place. The Marina Box Act to residential properties, and is it necessary to have something if there's an oil spill or fuel spill or boat sinks? Because I'm seeing a lot of boats sinking nearby, and I'm really getting sensitive to that.
I did review the agreement. I did not specifically look at insurance coverage and riders relative to those issues. I note that in the on the agreement on page 2, it has language specifically stating that the licensee shall, that no rubbish, gear, tackle, or obstruction shall be placed in or around the slip or any other part of the marina. No trash, garbage, oil, gasoline, untreatable fluid, and other pollutants shall be discharged into the waters of the marina. So we could recognize that as a breach, terminate. Were we to find somebody in violation, that would reserve the right to terminate for cause or without. As far as the insurance, there is provision on the form for the insurance. There is not as I'm reviewing it now, there's not a specific insurance quantum or specific coverage fields. I'm not sure, right? That's addressed in the agreement now.
I don't know, does it need to be? I guess that's a question for you. Should it be?
We can certainly do that. I mean, it does say emergency moving boat and insurance on page 5 of the agreement. It says in the event of emergency, I'm trying to find the language. The licensee is solely responsible for any liability connected to the boat. Licensee agrees that at all times during the period, they will maintain general liability, property damage insurance on the boat, accessories and contents in amounts acceptable to the city. So it's not a stated amount. That is where the language is, it's paragraph 10. And so we can state by policy, if you come to us and you report to Mr. Riefler, I've got my insurance, here it is. I got $500 of coverage, that's not a quantum, that's acceptable to the city. And you can state, what the either mean, median, or mode is of our other registered boat owners and what is customary. And if we wish to state it, we should.
We should have a minimum.
If we wish to make a minimum, we can set that. And this isn't being done by resolution or ordinance, that's an administrative policy, so if you direct the manager to amend, we can amend in that fashion without the need to have another 30 to 40 minute discussion on the
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think that would be my biggest, my only comment. So Kyle, if you can address that, I'm fine with it.
My recommendation would be, since we have, I'm assuming everybody here is in agreement with the wait list policy, everybody okay with it? That we go ahead and approve this, make the amendments, and then vote to approve the license agreement at a later date. I mean, we've got a temporary one, and it's just a matter of voting on the updates, the changes.
If I'm not mistaken, Attorney Moore, so we can approve and then Kyle just make that administration.
Okay, yeah. I thought that's what you.
Yeah, we don't need this to come back, as long as, and generally speaking, the manager had the authority to do this without necessarily another hearing on it, but given the commission or council's stated interest and extensive discussion on the matter, he and I agreed it would be best to bring it before you, just say, hey, here's what I'm going out with, since we talked about it so much, but if you're generally amenable to this, he can make those amendments, or we can make those amendments without the need to have hearings. This isn't an ordinance, it's not a resolution, it's really an administrative policy of legal agreement. We wanted your general blessing before we move forward with this. If we need to make line edits, we can make those without further hearings.
Are there any other comments from the council? No. Let's do a roll call again, Patty.
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Chester.
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts. Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. New policies approved, it's unanimous. All right, we are on to does anyone need a break? We're almost finished, but I didn't want anyone to be having an emergency, so. All right, so we're on to item number
But
30.
there's almost I'm getting close.
Getting close.
Getting close.
I'll tell you what, let's take 3 minutes back.
2 minutes is good for me.
All right, everyone, and we're back. We are to item number 33. This is Parks and Recreation Board Member Susan Coffey. She would like to move down from full member to alternate member. And alternate member, Deborah DeCosimo, would like to move from alternate member to full member. Before we go any further, we'll have to go to the citizens for comments. Would any of you like to speak? All right, citizen comments are closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve I'm going to need a motion to vote for alternate and full members for the Parks and Recreation Board. Motion is made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark Chester. All right, so you heard what they've asked for. Basically, if there's no debate, all we do is we take out this sheet that Patty has provided us, and what they're asking for is Susan Frank moves down to alternate, and Deborah Cosimo moves up as a full-time member. And you gave us, oh, you're already, okay. So everybody, if you don't mind, would you please vote? And let's get this taken care of.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Bankard voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate, Mr. Cosimo to be the member. Councilmember Chester voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate, Mr. Cosimo to be the member. Councilmember Notero voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate, Mr. Cosimo to be the member. Councilmember Roberts voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate, Mr. Cosimo to be the member. Vice Mayor Shirley voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate, Mr. Cosimo to be the member. And Mayor Gaddis voted for Ms. Conti to be the alternate and Mr. Cosimo to be the member.
Thank you, Patty, and congratulations to the candidates for sliding into the positions that they desire. So, we're very happy that they are serving the city and the Park and Rec Board, and we hope that they both stick around for a long time. All right, now we are on to item number 34, which is the fiscal year 2023 year-end budget adjustments placed on the agenda by City Manager Rico.
Mayor, so this is the annual budget adjustment. Part of the process has to be done no later than 60 days at the end of the fiscal year. Our financial consultant, Heather, has put together the budget adjustment worksheets to explain, and we also have a resolution that is per the charter necessary to make the budget adjustments. And she also wanted to note that there'll be no September monthly financials until these budget adjustments are made, so that she can wrap everything up. So to expect that afterwards, before the next meeting, we'll get the September financials.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2023-18, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for changes in the General Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Marina Fund, and Stormwater Fund appropriations to the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget, providing for the identification of such amendments and establishing an effective date. The first and final reading of Resolution 2023-18 by title.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Let's go to the citizens for comments. Citizen comments are now closed. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-18? Motion. Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second? Second by Leslie Notero. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
It is what it is. The word just speaks for itself.
Any other comments? No? All right. Patty, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankard?
Yes.
Councilmember Chester?
Yes.
Councilmember Notero?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley?
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis?
Aye. So the resolution 2023-18 approved unanimously. Yes, you do. All right, seeing as nothing but a joke on that topic, we'll move right on over to 36, which is council comments. This month, we'll begin with Councilmember Roberts.
Thank you very much. I think it goes without saying that we all are going to significantly miss Patty. It's always fun, and I can never forget her name because my wife's name is Patty, so that works out well. But from the beginning of joining the wonderful city and the council, Patty has never shied away from assisting and helping. And trust me when I tell you that I had some questions, and when she probably hung up the phone, thought, how could it be that dumb? But she was always helpful and always pointing me in the right direction, and I appreciate it very much. And as it's already been said, please come by and see us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Now up is Mark Chester.
I'd like to second what Mike said. I haven't known you for a long time, but you've been very, very helpful helping me as a rookie. Plus, you're very pleasant to come in and see and visit. And I just hope you have a lot of fun with your grandchildren. It's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. All right, Councilmember Baker.
Patty, you are a jewel of this city and will be sadly missed. That said, you are now interviewing my favorite people, retirees. Remember, as a retiree has to, his retirement has, her retirement has to last longer than okay? God bless you and your family, and thank you so much for the service you gave this city.
Thank you.
Ms. Notero.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to comment on is, I noticed it on the website, and I see it on the upcoming events. We have a citywide yard sale this Saturday. Yeah, right, I saw it on the city website, and then I noticed on this upcoming meetings and events, Saturday, November 11th.
Yeah.
That's,
If we haven't got any publicity for it, nothing on the sign out there, are we going to do it or not?
It's on the sign, and it's on the sign.
Yes, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's there, and today it was in the Bee, and it's been in the Times twice.
Oh,
Yeah, so we do the same advertising every year, yeah.
it's in this week's Bee?
Today it's in the Bee. Mm-hmm.
He's not out today, is it?
Pardon?
The Bee doesn't come out till Thursday, right?
Well, it must be from the last one, because I just saw it today. I just read it today. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, well. Okay. This will help me clean out my stuff.
yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Well, I know Patty hates all the attention, so. But yes, we are sad to see you go. I know I've said that before. Thank you for everything you've done. It's a great asset to the city and to this residents. And, you know, it's just really nice to have you here all these years. Hate change, so it's not gonna be easy, but it's we'll have to deal with it. Thank you for everything. I know it's not goodbye. I'll see you before you leave.
Yes.
When? This 19th?
Pardon?
When is your last day?
The 17th.
I'd like a work session on the 16th, please.
Start setting our
There we go. Anything else?
Thank you.
Well, Patty, you know where I stand. Pretty much everything everyone has said here is absolutely true for me also. And you will be severely missed. It's going to be some very hard shoes to fill for the next person that assumes the role of LRD city clerk. It's been an honor, just a wonderful experience working with you. And if we can get somebody that's just a quarter of what you are with your personality and your kindness and patience, then we'll be okay. Other than that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion made by
Second.
Frank Baker, and a second by Mark Chester. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good night, everyone.